now. Welcome everyone, this is Andres Restart. This is a Nintendo podcast we do every Monday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Well, maybe not every Monday night, but usually. Sometimes we have to reschedule for a Tuesday, and then maybe like 2 or 3 times a year we just straight up cancel it, provide holidays or something. I almost canceled it today because of nonsense, but I'm here, even though I look like I'm a mess and I'm destroyed. I'm alive. But we're going to be talking about Nintendo today, because that's what we do almost every Monday. And I am joined by Brandon from What About Nintendo, and Dumo from Dumo Plays. Both of their channels are linked in the description below. How you guys doing?
I'm doing good. Ready to get into the discussion.
Doing great. Excited about everything happening right now.
Yeah, there's like some Nintendo Direct speculation going on, and I'm like, I don't need another Nintendo Direct. There's plenty to be excited about already. Yeah. So, we're going to be talking about... I only have 3 topics today, because I have to keep it simple, because I'm a mess. But, we're going to be talking about all the Pokemon news that occurred this week, which is a lot. Then we're going to be talking about some leak information that's come out about the final Smash character for the Fighters Pass. There's more DLC coming, but for this current Fighters Pass, the final character, there's a lot of debate about who that's going to be. And then we'll be talking about a potential Nintendo Direct leak. I don't think it's necessarily real, but maybe. So we'll talk about it, because it's going to be fun. So, that's the plan. Yep. That's the plan. So, Brandon, I know you were really excited about Gigantamax Pikachu.
Oh yeah, super excited. Made my week. Yep.
Yeah. I thought it was really cool. But let's see how the chat's going before we jump into the things here. Brandon Stallion, hello there. Alexander, what's up? Ray J, what's up? Yeah, I'm minutes late. Marty, what's up, man? Terry. Oh, we got an app update. Yeah, big Butterfree boys, Marty, yeah. Go. Galar, Gigantamax, Butterfree, aka Mothra, is in the game. I wonder how many people realize that the Gigantamax Charizard and Gigantamax Butterfree is supposed to be the play off of, like, Godzilla and Mothra.
I've seen a couple people mention on Twitter, but...
Like, I remember the presentation, there was a presentation for Pokemon before the Pokemon Direct. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was. It was before Gigantamax or Dynamax was revealed. They had a Pokemon presentation, and they were talking about Godzilla during the Pokemon presentation. People were like, why are you talking about Godzilla? It's because they were actually hinting at the Dynamax mechanic that they were going to reveal like a week later.
Yeah, that was back in, May?
It was it was such a weird thing until they actually showed off the mechanic and we understood what was going on.
And
everyone thought back and was like
laughing about Pokemon Sleep to even catch that.
Man, I'm streaming that. That's gonna be a hit.
Yeah. Terry, you're saying that Gigantamax Charizard could be a play on Rodon. Maybe. I'm not super into Godzilla, but I know that thing looks like a giant dinosaur beast. So
one thing I will say, I don't think people would really put that together too often. I've had plenty of people not understand why Pikachu is fat.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's also
retro.
Yeah, retro Pikachu, exactly. Retro Pikachu, I think that was throwback to that. The Meow thing is based off of a meme, which I think is adorable. And then, okay, Eevee is just cute. I think they just, I don't think it's a reference to anything. Is it? You guys have heard anything that Eevee might be a reference to?
I have not.
I haven't.
Yeah, so I think it's just because they knew they had the Pikachu, right, from Let's Go Pikachu. They should do something for Eevee as well, so they just made him fluffy and cute, but giant also.
I assume the 2 of those were given. Let's Go did well enough, and they are mascots, so I assumed it would be something.
The interesting thing, though, is that one would think, or at least it kind of made sense before these reveals, that maybe Gigantamax would just be for final evolutions, right? Because we have been thinking about it as kind of like Mega Evolution, right? Just like an additional evolution beyond the base form, right? But it's actually not quite that, because Pikachu can evolve, or Gigantamax, right, into Fat Chew, right, and then Eevee can Gigantamax into Fluff Eevee, and then Meowth can get really long and tall. So, they're all not fully evolved Pokemon, so that's kind of not quite what some people expected. But then again, is Gigantamax or Dynamax even considered an evolution?
Well, lore-wise, we're gonna find out.
Yeah. There's
gonna be something go on with lore. That we know that much for sure.
Yeah.
As far as like the non-evolution ones, it just makes me wonder if we're actually going, like, does Raichu get a Gigantamax?
I'm gonna say no. That's just my prediction, but you know.
So do we see a game where competitively Pikachu is much better than Raichu?
That would be odd.
Well,
same with
hasn't
Meowth over Persian?
Pikachu kind of been like sort of more relevant than Raichu? Not counting the Alolan Raichu, Pikachu I feel like has been more useful than normal Raichu for a while. Well, not in doubles actually. In doubles, normal Raichu is still pretty good lately. But there have been some generations where normal Pikachu I think is more used than Raichu, because while it's a little slower with the Light Ball, it hits a lot harder. And it's a pretty good mixed attacker as well. So,
but then you also have to think about, like, okay, so Eevee over the evolutions, Meowth over Persian.
That's another thing. Well, Eevee did get like a weird Z move, right? That kind of just buffed all its stats, but I didn't really see that ever used competitively. And Meowth would be, I don't know. We're gonna have to see how their stats are. But then again, it's only for a certain amount of turns, right? So like even if it's good for that amount of turns, it's gonna stop being good once it's done. That the Gigantamax is off, so it's gonna go back to being just a normal Eevee or Meowth or whatever, unless they have buff stats, right? Like I think the Eevee in Let's Go was a stronger Eevee. It wasn't like a normal Eevee.
I'm pretty sure it was. Normal Eevee was just 6 IV and had special moves. Like it was really the move set that put it over the top, wasn't it?
Maybe. I'm not sure, man. Well, maybe it'll have those moves in Sword and Shield, because I mean, why not? Because I think you can transfer Let's Go Pokemon into Sword and Shield. So
see, we don't know if we're able to. Well, I don't think you'd be able to transfer the starter, because then the game essentially breaks.
Oh,
because your starter is always on you, even if they're not in their team.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, that's true.
Linking the two would give you the Gigantamax version. Is kind of how my understanding of it was.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We're gonna have to see. It's such a
wait and see on that one. Absolutely.
And then also you gotta remember we do have items, so it depends on how bulky they are with an Evilite.
Right, so, or they might give it a special item, right? Like Pikachu has a Light Ball, maybe Eevee will get something special too. And we don't know what causes a Gigantamax. Like, it has not been specified if it's an item. Like, there's maybe an item involved, but maybe not. Like, for example, we don't know for sure, or maybe I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, but like we don't know for sure if, like, for example, Charizard needs a Charizard Gigantamax Rock to Gigantamax, or if it could still hold a normal item and still Gigantamax.
I'm thinking, like, we haven't really been told anything specifically, but what I would imagine is that since every Pokemon can Dynamax, it's just some of them, instead of Dynamaxing, would have the option to Gigantamax, because why would you Dynamax something if you could Gigantamax it?
I was under the impression that for Dynamax, you do not need an item for that. You can still have an item and and Dynamax, but for Gigantamax, that has not been specified. But I also, at first I assumed just that, just like you said, Dumo, that Gigantamax is like, okay, if it can, that's an option for it. Like, it does that instead of Dynamax.
Yeah, that would be my assumption, but we're gonna find out. It's so close. Just give me the game.
Yeah. Madi's saying it's not an item, I heard. You can just do it, apparently. Yeah, that's my impression, at least with Dynamax. Might have to double check that later on. But we'll know for sure, really soon. But
oh yeah.
Let's any sort of thoughts on these actual Gigantamax mons before we just talk about all of the other news that came from these previews about Pokemon?
First thoughts. Gen 1 only, come on.
A lot of people did not like that.
give us some love. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Gen 1. Don't get me wrong, but like, and go ahead, give all these things, all these Gen 1 Pokemon, all this love. But what about Gen 2, 3, 4? Like spread it out a little bit. Go ahead and give them all, but give like somewhat equal. Even if you give like half as many to like Gen 2 or Gen 3, like you just have a bunch from each generation.
Yeah, it's weird. It's definitely weird. Like, I'm personally not upset. Like, I'm hyped for Charizard. Like, I'm just a Charizard fanboy, right? Yeah. So I see that and I'm like, oh my god, this is amazing. But most people are like, come on, Charizard has a third form now. Are you serious? Right? So
Charizard needs all the forms.
It needs everything. Charizard has more, like, final forms than any other Pokemon, which is... I appreciate because I'm a Charizard fanboy, but for the non-Charizard fanboys, I kind of get it. It's weird.
Yeah.
On that end, the only thing I have to say is I'm not a big fanboy of it, and it's kind of like, oh, another one. But you can't really argue. We've like they've put out the information now. They've polled people.
It should have been expected.
Charizard is by far the favorite of everyone that voted. Like it was like. In the vote, Charizard was a runaway favorite. Like even above Pikachu. Like Pikachu was actually surprisingly low down the list, even though Pikachu is the mascot.
Yeah.
And, like everyone, like so, every generation expect Charizard and expect it to get something special. Like it is the favorite of the majority. It's gonna happen. So deal with it.
Yeah.
Whether I like it or not, that's the reality. That's what's going to happen. So like. Deal with it.
Yeah. Again, I don't mind. I'm happy about it.
Yeah,
but go on,
for
Brent.
me, like with my limited Pokemon knowledge, I mostly know Gen 1 Pokemon, so I'm like, oh, I know all these Pokemon. This is cool.
So that's actually an interesting point, though, right? Like, people are continually complaining that they just give Kanto love, but the Kantomons are the most iconic, right? So there's merit to focusing on the Kantomons, right? But they've been doing this for a while. Like, they got all the Alolan forms.
They've been giving them a lot of attention for a long time.
And most Mega Evolutions are also Kanto Pokemon as well, right? So most Kanto Pokemon, not most, but a lot of Kanto Pokemon of all the Mega Evolutions, there are way more Kanto Pokemon, right? But then they also exclusively are the only ones that got Alolan forms, right? And from all the Galarian forms, minus the Zigzagoon line, Kanto Pokemon seem to be the only ones getting Galarian forms. And now, there's a whole bunch of Gigantamax forms that were revealed, and they were all for Kanto Pokemon. So, like, I can see why people would be upset if it's all just Kanto. But, yeah. I'm gonna stress that we don't know what is in store for the rest of the game, right? We don't know how many other Gigantamax Pokemon there are going to be. We don't know how many other Galarian Pokemon there are going to be. What we do know, though, is that there are a whole bunch of Pokemon that have yet to have been revealed. We know that. In fact, from the previews that came out last week, a lot of people that played the first 90 minutes saw several Pokemon they had not seen before within the first 90 minutes, but they were not allowed to talk about them, right? Yeah. So, for those who are looking for hope that there's going to be some more variety here besides Kanto love, we at least know there's going to be a lot more Pokemon that have yet to have been revealed. So
now, also on Kanto love with the Alolan forms and the all the Kanto love, there is also another thing at play here. Is they are trying to balance things, and one thing when you're talking about a game over many years is a little concept called power creep, and it exists.
What do you mean by power creep?
So as the generations go on, Pokemon will become, there will be a very slight creep where things will get stronger and stronger. So if you don't do anything for the Gen 1, they will fall behind and they will become obsolete and no one will use them. Now, the one thing they could do, of course, is rebalance stats.
And they've done that. The last few generations, there have been a couple Pokemon that get minor buffs, and some of those buffs make a difference, right? Like, Nidoking got a little bit faster. Raichu got faster, too. I think Raichu got, like, an additional, like, 10 speed, I could be mistaken, but I know Raichu got a buff not too long ago. It may have been for speed, and if it was for speed, that makes a huge difference. The difference between 100 and 110 means you can outspeed almost everything versus speed tying with a lot of things, right? and it's not a bulky Pokemon, but it's useful as as a support Pokemon. So it definitely makes sense to buff certain Pokemon. At the same time, though, like, there are still a lot of Kanto Pokemon that are still pretty relevant. Like, they had the abilities, right? When they introduced abilities, some of them got really good abilities, or they just get really good moves. But let's look at Generation 2, though. Generation 2, there's been power, like, to your point that there's been power creeping. Generation 2 kind of sucks. Like, Typhlosion is bad. I love Typhlosion. My first competitive Pokemon team ever was Typhlosion. Actually, my first fully evolved Pokemon was Typhlosion. That was my first Pokemon game was actually Generation 2. Even though I'm a Charizard fanboy, and that is my favorite Pokemon, Cyndaquil was my first Pokemon ever. And this guy needs way more love. I appreciated that he had Eruption, which was almost an exclusive move, but Heatran also has it, and even then, that's not really enough to make Typhlosion good, right? Feraligatr is at least pretty good, because it has a sheer force ability and it can Dragon Dance. But then you look at Meganium, Meganium's just straight trash. Like, Meganium's one of the worst fully evolved Pokemon in the game. There's nothing Meganium does that there aren't other Pokemon that do a lot better. And it's very unfortunate.
No, Gen 2 definitely could use some love. I'm surprised they haven't. Again, there is power creep, and I do understand giving Gen 1 things because of the power creep, but it is creeping, and we haven't. Like, Gen 2 definitely needs a little something. And as far as starters go, like, if I remember correctly, I think Gen 3 got a whole bunch of stuff in the past. Like, they've, like, ability wise, they went through the roof with a couple of them. Gen 2, like, not so much. they could definitely use a little bit of something.
Right. And what was cool when we saw the Zigzagoon, Galarian form, and then Linoon, then Obstagoon, the new evolution, was that it was a combination of the Alolan forms, but also of the Generation 4 evolutions, right? Because in Generation 4, a whole bunch of old Pokemon got an additional evolution that made them really good, right? Obstagoon might make Linoon... Actually, Linoon's actually already kind of good, because it can do, like, the whole belly drum thing. But now, with Obstagoon, it could be probably good for a whole bunch of other reasons, right? At least that line. I want to see that for other Pokemon. Maybe Girafarig could get a Galarian evolution. That would be really nice to see, right? Or Dunsparce or Stunfisk. Some Pokemon that are underused that are still kind of appreciated, just not by Game Freak.
Yeah, well, there's a lot down that list. Like, when you're looking at it, there's so many Pokemon that just need something, like well, I don't know. Like, you also see stuff like Skarmory, which isn't going anywhere, like, provided it's in the game. You got T-Tire, which is pretty nuts, but like there's a lot there. Mind you, there's a lot in Gen 2 that are pre-evolutions as well. So I can kind of see nothing really happening in that regard. But again, you got your Girafarig, Delibird could use something.
Delibird absolutely needs something. People keep on speculating like an Ice Ghost Galarian form, which I would love.
Oh, really cool. I was hoping for something like an evolution for Delibird, like what Farfetch'd got. I thought that was going to be the counterpart. Personally, I thought that would have made sense. Bring a Pokemon that isn't doing anything and give it a reason. Yeah. So let's check in with the chat for a little bit before we start diving into the rest of the Pokemon news here. Because there's a lot to talk about. A lot. I don't know how much we'll go over it here if you didn't hear about all of it. I'll tell you. Terry Sivertson added me. I wouldn't be surprised if Tyranitar, Hydreigon, and Duraludon get special Gigantamax forms. Yeah, those... Don't they? No, we don't know that. Don't the four of them? Tyranitar, Hydreigon, and Duraludon, they don't. As far as we don't know. Here's the thing, just because you see it Dynamax doesn't mean it can't Gigantamax, right? Because there are
variations. There are Charizard that can just Gigantamax, and that can just Dynamax, and then there are some special ones that can still Gigantamax. So until they say, hey, there's no Gigantamax forms for these Pokemon, or show a list of all the Gigantamax forms, we don't know which fully evolved Pokemon can't Gigantamax. So there's still hope that Tyranitar, Hydreigon, or Duraludon could, but we haven't seen them yet.
I thought that was part of the announcement where the 4 of them you got Gigantamax versions before you were supposed to be able to, or was it just that you get them early?
Yeah, because maybe it's a good time to bring up that exclusives page you showed me. We're basically talking about exclusives now, right? So here's a list of like a lot of the exclusive Pokemon. Right? Is it a list?
As you go down, it's a little ways down.
I see it now.
It sorts them all out.
Right. So this is a list of all the exclusive Pokemon so far between Sword and Shield. So the Hydreigon line is in Sword, and the Tyranitar line is in Shield. Como-O in Sword, Goodra in Shield, Reuniclus in Shield, Gothitelle in Sword, Braviary in Sword, Mandibuzz in Shield. I like how I appreciate the parody here. Farfetch'd, Surfetch'd, Galarian Ponyta. Yeah, we know about that. Mawile, Sableye, Turtonator, and Drampa. I mean, if it's on the left, it's for Sword. If it's on the right, it's for Shield.
And then going down from there, it just talks about the 2 legendaries and the exclusive gym leaders.
Right, which we only know about the Fighting and Ghost. Ghost and Shield, Fighting and Sword for now.
Yeah, and then they say, well, we haven't seen everything yet. It's like, yeah. Well,
I think clearly. What it is for these guys, the Goodra and the Como-O, and maybe the Duraludon or the Tyranitar, it's just like they're just like there's like some sort of like early bonus if you get the special order, we can get like the other one. I think that's how it works, something along those lines. But it could be a hint that these get Gigantamax forms. Like, it makes sense, especially for Como-O, because Como-O without his Z move is trash. Like, Como-O needs his Z move to be really good. So without a Z move, he's gonna need something. So I could see Como-O getting a Gigantamax form. I'd love for Goodra to get a Gigantamax form. I feel like Goodra, there's just something else that can be done with him. And Tyranitar is just one of the more popular ones, right? Also Hydreigon, just a really popular. These are both really popular pseudo-legendaries, so I think it makes sense. Why not give some Gigantamax evolutions to pseudo-legendaries? You know, some of the most popular Pokemon in the series.
But do they really need them? It's nice and all, but if they're pseudo-legendary, do they really need them to be viable? Like a big part of the whole
Como-O does.
Was supposed to be rebalancing.
Right.
At the same time, taking out some of the Pokemon that would check it might
right, that alone sometimes will make a Pokemon more relevant, just the absence of others, right? Because there are some Pokemon that have good stats that just, for whatever reason, they just aren't used that much because their abilities just don't work too well compared to what's really being used most often, right?
Or there's other things where you'll have a metagame that has something fairly common, and it just wipes out most of the metagame just has to be centered around it, because if you can't beat this, then you can't play that. Mm-hmm. And so like you'll have a ton of teams that just can't exist due to the existence of a certain core. So if you change the core, mess up the core, or just get rid of that core, suddenly it opens up a ton of space for everything else.
Yeah, I really hope Kyogre, like Primal Kyogre and Primal Groudon, are just not really available for competitive play for a few years.
I have a funny feeling that there's a lot of stuff like that just isn't going to be in there.
And what's interesting is that for Generation 7, there wasn't too many fast Pokemon, so it was kind of okay to be really slow in Generation 7 for just the regional decks, right? Like if you were playing just within the regional decks, it worked. Even though all those Pokemon are comparatively slow to other generations, it worked for that generation. But you know, I guess we'll have to wait and see how that all shakes out between which Pokemon actually get Gigantamax forms. But we don't know, so there's hope that there should be some. There's gonna be more. We don't know all of them yet. You see here, Grief and Golem. The Kantos are only popular because they get more things, which just makes them more popular. Interesting.
I don't know if I'd go that far. They're also popular because the people. You got to remember,
They were the
people
originals.
that were around for Gen 1 are Gen 1ers, or people like me who now have kids that are watching Pokemon.
But I think there is something to, like, for example,
they've also been shown off the most.
Right, yeah, so I mean that makes sense. I mean, it's kind of to what Grief and Golem's point, right? Like, they've been done a lot for them. Like, they even were featured in, like, for the first Pokemon Go were the original Pokemon, right? And also, of all the gens that have been redone the most, it is Kanto, right? So because we have Let's Go, Pikachu, and Eevee, we went back to Kanto there. And then even, like, when we have something for Generation 2, Kanto's still in there as well, right? So, like, Kanto is, like, always... It's coming up the most, and it probably always will be because it was the original region with the original Pokemon. But let's move on.
It also is probably pretty nostalgic for the team at Game Freak as well. Like they probably care quite a bit for them, because that set off, like, this is a long time of doing the same IP, and it is not going away. No.
I like what Miles64 brought up over here. He said, I'm glad they're keeping some secrets. Yeah, because we still don't know a lot about this game, and we're less than a month away, which is very exciting. I hope that when these next few weeks, they don't just completely bury us with information. Right. I hope they kind of maintain the same pace. That way we can just sort of learn, you know, I really just want, like, a couple more Pokemon revealed, like, every week, and that's it. I want for the games to come out and for me to just be surprised.
Yeah,
I honestly
trend of games just getting all the big stuff revealed before they come out. It's not really necessary, especially for Pokemon, because a lot of other companies are like, okay, they gotta sell you on this game. They gotta make sure you know why to buy this game over the other games. This is Pokemon. People are gonna buy it anyways. You don't have to reveal every last thing.
The only thing I really want to see is the final. I don't even care what names. Just show me what the final evolutions of the starters look like. And
we still don't even know about the mid-stage evolutions.
Right.
I don't even care. Just show me what the end one was. So
you know
it's not like
you know what you're signing up for.
It's not one of those ones where you're like, oh, this is really cute. I like it. And you see the end phase. You're like, how did that happen?
What's his face? Incineroar.
Yeah.
Which one did you say? Oshawott? Oh yeah. What? It's weird. At least with Oshawott, like, he uses his shells as a weapon, and Samurott still uses his shells as a weapon. With Incineroar, it's a cat that becomes a humanoid wrestler with cat features. Like, its little bell that is, like, you know, like a cute little cat bell becomes like a champion's wrestler belt. What?
Yes, Salem.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's. I just want to see what the final ones are. I love this. Everything about it. Like, I'm actually really interested now in Gen 9 when it comes. I know, like, wait for Gen, but like just with the national dex thing, will be kind of. I'm sure there's still gonna be people freaking out about it come Gen 9, but it's not gonna be the forefront of everything. Where we can really enjoy this reveal, where it's like, you know, we say it's like they haven't really revealed a lot, but you got to remember, every single Pokemon shown is a reveal for the game now. Every single. So if you go by it, like, numerically,
it gets
how
people
many
talking about it, right?
We have revealed.
They can reveal one Pokemon a week, and people will be talking
about
Pokemon every week, all week. Yeah. I mean, look, Galarian Ponyta is just one part of an evolutionary line, and that has people going nuts, right?
Yep.
Same thing with Sirfetch'd, although we assume that normal Farfetch'd is the one before, but we don't know that for sure yet. We don't know. So
True.
It could be like a different form of Farfetch'd. And there might be something beyond Sirfetch'd. We don't know yet. I'm going to assume that Sirfetch'd is probably the final evolution, but we'll know for sure pretty soon. But let's continue on with the chat here. Mastermind added me. Don't care about Gigantamax form, still think Armored Pokemon was a missed opportunity. Still gonna buy it for Galarian Ponyta, it's adorable, I want it, and I will make it powerful. Especially when it grows those wings and it just, you know, takes over the world. Absolutely. I do like the Gigantamax forms. Armored Evolution would have been kind of cool as well, but I feel like if it was armored, people would have been like, yep, that's a Digimon copy, like 100%. At least the Gigantamax, it's different. Like, they're going for the Godzilla stuff. And actually, I see that Terry added me too, and he said, if Hydreigon gets a Gigantamax form, it might end up looking like Ghidorah, right? Did I say that right? There is like a 3-headed dragon in Godzilla, so maybe that's... Maybe they will do it for just that reason alone, because they see this, you know, because they're obviously doing some sort of, like, Godzilla homage with Mothra, Butterfree, and Godzilla Charizard. So maybe they got something planned for a few other Pokemon to sort of resemble some of the other Godzilla creatures. That'd be nice to see. Yeah, I would love that, because I love Hydreigon. Let's see here. Chris, hello there. NAK, what's up? NAK said, I clicked as soon as I saw Crash and Ryu in the thumbnail. We're going to talk about it. Just you wait. Yeah, so let's jump into the rest of the Pokemon Sword and Shield news. So there's a lot. I made a video on it, like summarizing pretty much everything. But from what you guys have heard, is there anything that sort of sticks out to you that you're really excited about? And if you don't know too much, I'll gladly just summarize it all.
You can go ahead and summarize it all.
All right, and then we'll pick it apart.
For me, like the main thing, like nothing new has really come up that's really kind of pulled me more into it. But it's still the max raid battles is, and the fact that we know next to nothing about these games, max raid and knowing next to nothing, that has me hyped.
Yeah. And just like, so
and
with
them being difficult.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. So we heard, I mean, both these things we sort of already knew beforehand, but it was really discussed a lot with people who actually played the game, right? So, one, it seems the game's being designed in a way where it's considering that many experienced players could be playing the game, but it's still being designed in a way where it's like smart. So as you play the game, certain things will come up that you will learn to play the game naturally, right? Like you'll learn about typing naturally, things like that. And there are certain tutorials that you can skip as well, things that you wouldn't normally be able to skip in previous generations. So at least in that way, they're designing the game for experienced players. But on top of that, there is like optional difficulty with the raid battles, right? There are different like tiers for the raid battles, and the really high tiers are supposedly really challenging, even for people who actually play Pokemon competitively. And then there's also, just within the wild area, a lot of Pokemon that are really highly leveled. Like you can run into some high level areas and get completely smacked, kind of like Xenoblade. So you have that option, you can do that. So it kind of excites me just to see that there are at least some elements that they're throwing into Sword and Shield that are way more challenging compared to previous Pokemon games, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's the thing that excites me the most, because when I tried to play Pokemon Moon, I was just disappointed by how much of a pushover literally every part of the game was. Like I didn't even have to try, not even a little bit.
Yeah, to be fair though, we don't know how challenging the main campaign will be. It may turn out that the main campaign will still be fairly easy, but there will be some side ventures that you could do that can make the game more challenging. That's what we kind of understand at this point.
I wouldn't be surprised if the main game is easy. That's common in games these days, where the main game is meant to give you enough challenge to be like, yay, I beat it, but everyone's meant to beat the main game. And then it's things like your raid battles. Like, look at Final Fantasies. A lot of time in a Final Fantasy game, your end boss isn't going to be the hardest boss in the game. It's going to be some super boss afterwards that you can build towards. It's because you're meant to finish the story, and then you go back and build up to do these crazy fights.
Right. I don't even want it to be like ridiculously hard. I just want to have to think at least a little bit.
Yeah,
like,
well,
I like Xenoblade's difficulty. It's not hard. Like I barely ever lost battles in Xenoblade, like Chronicles 2. Honestly, that game is like really well balanced. Yes, the final boss. But I have to actually think and use all the mechanics smartly. Like I'm not gonna die a bunch, but I have to think and use all the mechanics, and it's fun to play through. That's the kind of difficulty I'm looking for. I'm not looking to die like 12 times to each boss or anything.
Yeah, see, Xenoblade for me was, I was trying to grind and do the RPG thing, and then I just got sucked into the story, and I'm like,
you don't even need to grind.
Go to the end.
To be honest.
No, just go to the end.
I just went straight to the end. Got to the final boss. Was like, okay, this is just out of reach. And I was like, do I grind? And I was like, how about I just make a proper build of one of my
If you
characters?
just
And then it's like you do one crit heal Mithra game. Like,
Yeah.
do a
There you
proper
go.
build, and that it solves everything. There was no need to grind anything at all.
Yeah, like try just like if you learn the mechanics of Xenoblade, it becomes a lot easier. But for those who don't bother to really like, they just do the basics, it's pretty hard. For Sword and Shield though, like we have heard that they are planning a lot for the post game. Granted, that's just what they said. Yeah. We don't actually know how much there is, right? Like a developer could say, "Oh yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff," and there's not really necessarily that much. But they are saying that they have a lot planned for the post game, and that they actually have a lot planned in particular for more competitive oriented players. So if you are looking for a challenge, it sounds like some of that challenge may come in the post game, which I'm okay with. That kind of makes sense to me. So hopefully that's actually there, but obviously we won't know for sure. But I will say that I feel confident in saying that the post game is probably going to be a bit more extensive than Generation 7. If they're going to go out and say that we're going to have a more extensive post game, you got to think that they're at least planning something bigger than their last game.
Yeah, it's one of those things where they've constantly told us that they've been like the Pokemon Dex cut, the Pokedex cut was to expand on ideas and things that they wanted to put in games for years, but they couldn't because they had to put all the resources into continuing the Pokedex and bringing all the Pokemon over. And we do keep hearing this, and some people keep ignoring, other people are actually listening. And for the people that have played it, they've been like, this is easily the most like.
They're saying it's the most.
Earlier today said it's the most ambitious.
Yeah, we hear that from a lot of different people, especially IGN said that too. Like one of the most ambitious Pokemon, not one of the most ambitious Pokemon game yet. And Game Freak has said, there's like, actually I have an article right here I can pull up. Granted, again, it comes to, if a developer says that, hey, we're going to make our best game yet, you would think a developer's always trying to make their best game yet, but I feel like normally they don't come out and say that though, right? They've come out on multiple occasions saying, we're trying to make this the best Pokemon game yet. Game Freak set out to make the ultimate, strongest, and best Pokemon game with Pokemon Sword and Shield's new Gigantamax footage shared. There's actually a little quote here, right here. We set out with the idea of making the ultimate, strongest, the best Pokemon game yet being on the Nintendo Switch the first time an all-new generation is coming to a console. It was really just every facet of the game, gameplay, visuals, everything. That was really the theme for when I set out making the game, the greatest Pokemon game. That's great to hear, and from what we've heard of the previews, might actually be the case. Right? Because not only are there, it seems to be a lot more to do. Like, for example, people talk about the wild area. A lot of people are really harping on the wild area because there's a lot of variety. You have the roaming Pokemon, which has been noted is better than the Pokemon we saw in Let's Go. Like, they move around a lot more naturally. But you also have the random encounters, which you also can do to get different kinds of Pokemon. So you have a lot of variety there. But on top of that, there are the raid battles, which also offer especially rare Pokemon, but it's also very challenging, and you can do that with other players online. But also, with other players online, there are other trainers actually running around the wild area with you who you can interact with, and there are shops within the wild area, like it has its own currency as well. And of course, there's cooking and camping in the wild area, and then there are certain areas you can simply just interact with, like the trees and the water and things like that, and you can whistle at Pokemon. So all of these different things together are just offering a lot of variety for things you can actually do in the wild area, which is actually really large. Apparently the wild area is about the size of 2 regions of Breath of the Wild, which is huge for Pokemon. That's just, I mean,
but I would imagine they're not making that comparison to be like it's the size of the 2 smallest regions of Breath of the Wild.
Right. I mean,
this isn't
at the same time. Breath of the Wild is like 20 regions, right? Like there's a lot of regions in Breath of the Wild, but Breath of the Wild is one of the bigger open worlds ever, right? The wild area is just a section of Pokemon, but it's a pretty big section from what we're seeing, at least from what we can gauge. But a lot of people are really excited about that, and that's one of the reasons why all these previews have been really positive. That's really cool.
Yeah, no, the wild area looks fantastic, and since it started, we knew about multiplayer, and with the raid battles, we didn't know how multiplayer the wild area would be, and then to see 4 players on screen running around together and just running off doing their own thing, like that's a big positive. That is a big positive, and that's something I think the series really could use. And yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see what kind of interactions we can get. It'd be great if there was more fun ways to interact with other players that you're in there with, which I feel like they would have thought of that.
It's kind
I'm
of
really hoping it's in.
I'm actually like kind of excited because I'm looking forward to actually playing Pokemon with my friends, like single player Pokemon besides just battling each other. That's going to be interesting to actually see. We haven't been able to do that before. Not really. Now it's going to, like, I guess there were like there used to be like the union rooms, I guess. But even then you couldn't really do much in the union rooms. You could just battle and trade pretty much. Like you're actually going to be able to like team up with your friends, which is awesome. I'm looking forward to that. But there's also several quality of life changes that came up from these previews. One of them, for example, is that just like in Let's Go, at least within the wild area, you can always access your PC box, which is pretty cool. Another interesting thing is that there are some Pokemon roaming around in the wild area that glow yellow, and that's an indicator that that Pokemon has better stats and special moves, egg moves and better IVs. So that's also really nice to see. And on top of that, apparently within the Pokemon centers, every single one will have a move deleter and a name reader. So there's just like a lot of like quality of life improvements to this game on top of all the things you can do. And we hear that they're really focusing on just kind of streamlining the gameplay and the progression of the story. Like it sounds like this game's being designed a lot more intelligently than any previous Pokemon game. That's exciting to me.
It's a lot of streamlining, and to be perfectly honest, it's a little thing, but the being able to change the name of any Pokemon at any time and Let's Go as a streamer is really nice. Like people come and say, "Oh, can I have this named after me?" You just open up, there you go. Yep, there, it's done. And that was a lot of fun. And the one thing that I do find a little strange is how important is the move deleter these days? Now that you don't have to delete HMs, does it really matter that much? I guess breeding maybe.
It's needed. It's needed. It's not like you need it. Not for HMs. That's true because there are no HMs. But
that was the main reason back in the days. Like that's the only way to get rid of a freaking HM. So you get flash on your Pokemon to get through a cave, and suddenly it's like, oh, now I'm stuck with it.
So I guess what would be really cool if I want to see like beat the game, like maybe a move tutor is available in every Pokemon Center as opposed to one area. That'd be neat to see because that's more important. The move tutor to actually learn special moves. Yeah. But one reason to have a move deleter is for Last Resort. So one set that I made like years ago back for Generation 4, like when I played Pokemon Pearl, I had this Ambipom, and it had two moves. Fake Out and Last Resort. So once it uses Fake Out, it causes a flinch on first turn, then it can have access to its other move called Last Resort. Last Resort is a really powerful normal attack that can only be used if you've used all of your other moves, so it can be your last resort. So I would Fake Out with Ambipom, it would hit the Pokemon, they would flinch, it's a priority move, so it almost always goes off, and it's basically just like additional damage. And then Last Resort becomes available, and I can just use a 130 power move with Stab just continually until I switch out. So that's one reason to use a move deleter, just so you can like literally have blank spots. But also, yeah, that like one reason I can think of at least off the top of my head. So yeah, actually, Madi knows about this Ambipom. yeah, it was a good time. But anything else you guys want to sort of talk about in reference to the Pokemon news, or are you guys actually ready to move on to the Smash stuff?
Well, there was one thing brought up in chat that the game is over 10 gig.
Yes, 10.3 gigabytes, but that really doesn't tell us anything. It just tells us that it's bigger than Let's Go, which is expected because it has more Pokemon and there's more detail with the graphics. So that alone should add to the amount of space it takes up.
It's a bigger region.
Bigger game.
I'm honestly surprised there wasn't a big pushback. I didn't see much. Maybe it's because I kind of stepped away.
I saw some people.
I didn't see much of a freak out over like, oh, you had enough space. Why didn't you put in more Pokemon? Like, I was kind of expecting it, and I didn't really see much.
I saw it, but it wasn't like the big. It wasn't the biggest talking point, but there were people complaining about the storage space. There were definitely people complaining. Some people just assumed, oh, okay, like for example, some people were like, oh my god, 10.3 is a lot, and then some people respond, oh no, that's just Game Freak being terrible with their design. They don't know how to program anything. They probably layered everything 3 times over. Like, that was things that were said, like stuff like that, which is weird. I know, Brandon, we were talking about it last week. Like, you talked about like how like sometimes developers have to put things in multiple places so the game can like read things quicker, correct?
Yeah, they were, this isn't something I realized till a couple of weeks ago when the PlayStation developers were talking about it, but if sometimes when you have slower storage space, you'll need to access the same thing over and over again. So like a specific asset will need to be accessed multiple times throughout the game. The problem is when you're in one section of the hard drive, it's slow to move over to another section. So it's quicker just to put the same thing over and over and over again. I don't know how much of an issue that is on Switch because it does use faster storage than what's in the PS4 and the Xbox One, but it's still not like ridiculously fast, so they probably have to do it a little bit. But yeah, that's something that some developers will do. Sometimes they'll put the same, literally one asset 500 times just because it needs to be accessed a lot.
That's really funny. But, you know, that's the thing, though, right, about development. That's something that if you're not a developer, most of the time you wouldn't understand, right? But people would just kind of use, like, their layman's understanding, right? Just assume, oh, that's just being lazy or inefficient. Like, you shouldn't have it all over the place like that, right? But it actually is more useful for the developers to have it like that, right? So...
There's, and again, one thing which the Ask a Game Dev blog said, it repeats over and over again, is people don't understand your favorite game is literally a tiny thing from completely breaking. One little thing off will completely break a game, and
that's why sometimes when you do glitches, it can lead to a game crashing. I've
done basic coding for like even like small like games you'd see like Flash games. Like I've done coding for these and been like, the entire game is literally not working at all, and I'll find it's like a space that I accidentally put in the coding. I'm like, oh my god, that took me 3 hours to find.
Yeah.
And it broke the whole game. Like the entire game didn't work.
Yeah, and actually, I like the point that Shadow of Nexus is bringing up. So Briefing Golem brought up that Breath of the Wild is around 13.4 gigabytes, and Shadow of Nexus said that that's super small for an open world game, and that's true. Like some people are saying, like, oh, Pokemon's not that far off from Breath of the Wild. Yes, but at the same time, keep in mind storage space isn't necessarily the greatest indicator of how big or small a game is. Right,
because you don't necessarily load in the entire. It's not dependent on how big it is because you're making it out of the same assets. It's the amount of unique assets that takes up space, not necessarily how you use that assets to make a giant world.
Right, so like Breath of the Wild doesn't have that many assets, but it's really smart about the assets it does have. So even though it's only 13 some gigabytes, that game is way bigger than games that have like 3 to 4 times as many storage space, right? Like, but we're using a lot of the same assets to get that, to accomplish that, right? And that also Nintendo has really good compression technology. We talked about it not too long ago, but for example, for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, at one point in development, the game was about 60 gigabytes, but they compressed it down to about 15. And if I remember correctly, there was an article that came up maybe a year or two ago where the compression technology got so much better between the development of Super Smash Bros. Wii U and 3DS and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Like, it got about 4 times better, which is maybe why we heard that at one point in development, Smash Ultimate was about 60 gigabytes, and they were able to squeeze it down to 15. Because compression technology actually got better, right? So there are different things like that, like compression techniques, where you put the space, how you use your assets, all of these different things can lead to different storage sizes, right? Also, like if a game has a lot of music or voiceovers, that can really, rack up the amount of space it takes, right? And those things aren't things that necessarily make the game last longer, right? That just, it kind of depends on what kind of music and voiceovers are in the game. Pokémon Sword and Shield has no voiceovers, apparently, so that will help to keep the space down. So that,
Mind you, those would all get compressed anyways, and some people would not notice at all, and other people would freak out over it. And...
Right.
Yeah.
Like, it's interesting. I remember when Dark Souls Remastered came out for the Nintendo Switch, a lot of people were complaining about the audio. They said that the audio quality wasn't as good because they like compressed it or something.
Mm-hmm.
I personally didn't feel. I mean, I didn't play the original though. So I didn't compare the audio, but I thought the audio was fine.
I've heard audio comparisons on a few games that are bad, and some of them, other ones, I'm just like,
it's okay.
Assassin's Creed, I forget which one. The one that just got remastered. 3, was it? That one has really bad audio compression. It sounds terrible compared to the PS4 and Xbox One versions. It's actually really bad. But yeah, usually they compress it and it's fine.
What are your thoughts on the no voice acting?
Well, I was actually just reading a point that Grief and Golem brought up that I'm pretty much in agreement with. He said, "Oh yeah, there is no voice acting, but the lips move to the words a lot more fluently." It's a little disappointing because I see what they're going for with Pokemon Sword and Shield. Like, it's almost more like an anime, right? Like, it's very cinematic. Like, it's all about becoming the very best, right? Like, they're going for that. There's a lot of really dynamic cutscenes that have been shown. And it's been remarked by a lot of previewers that they're, like, very quick and dynamic, so they're not annoying, but they actually, like, add to selling you on the world. But those cutscenes oftentimes have the characters talking, and you see the text moving around in an animated fashion, and you see their lips moving, but there's no actual voice. From what I've seen, it looks like, from what I've seen and heard, right? I think it's definitely an improvement over previous Pokemon games, but it's not like a full step up. It's almost like a half step, right? But I've also never been one to like need voice acting necessarily. But I will say that there are some games where I'm glad it's there. Like, for example, Xenoblade Chronicles. Well, all the Xenoblade games, right? Like, that's when you play through the story, it's like watching a really good anime while you play the game at the same time. If it didn't have voice acting, I don't know how good that experience of the game would be. Like, maybe the story wouldn't hit as hard anymore, right? It wouldn't feel like watching an anime because, hey, there's no voice acting, you know? So, yeah. That's the thing that I'm kind of like, okay, you know, maybe they could have gone for that. Because if they are trying to push, like, a more anime-like game, because there's going to be a tournament at the end and things like that, if they had voice acting, that it would basically be playing like a Pokemon anime, right? With RPG mechanics, which would have been really cool. And they're still kind of going for that. And I think it's still going to be fine, but I definitely think that maybe for next generation, they should make that leap to actually having voice acting.
I hope they do add voice acting. I'm actually almost happy they don't have it this generation, just because
it's a lot to sort of.
I just don't want to sit through more complaints of, oh, this voice acting is terrible.
That's
every
an
Nintendo
point.
game is, even if there's so many games that I've seen where people complain about the voice acting, and the voice acting is fine. What they're complaining about is that it's Nintendo likes to use British voice actors or United Kingdom voice actors, and people automatically complain about it. Now, the one thing is, it would have worked really well in Sword and Shield, but that's one thing I've noticed. Even if the voice, like, it's like, oh, this voice acting is horrible. It's like, no, it's not top notch, but it's far from terrible.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's, oh, I just don't like the voice, is what people come back to, and it's like, so. And it happens every release they put voice acting into, and it's something I just, with the amount of complaints that Sword and Shield have had so far before the game's even out, I don't want to deal with it. But Gen 9, bring on the voice acting. I'll handle the complaints again when that comes around.
Yeah, it's like, I never really thought voice acting was that big of a deal because I played so many games where it was just text boxes, but then they put voice acting in Breath of the Wild, and I was like, oh, it's actually like good. And I went back and like watched like played other Zelda games, and like, yeah, this would be better with voice acting. So I'm like,
it's an improvement.
Kind of hoping for it.
Yeah, it's an improvement when a game has a lot of cutscenes in it, right?
Yeah.
Because you can make
impactful cutscenes.
And that's the thing. Like, I don't think I need the cutscenes when it's just normal gameplay, right? Like, for example, Astral Chain I think has a good balance. Like, when you're just playing through the game, they're not talking like all the time. They're just talking during the cutscenes, like with the voice acting. I think that's fine. Like, you play games like Skyrim, everything is voice acted, right?
Right.
Which I'm not saying I hate. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, but I don't think it's needed. Like, I don't feel like it's missing in games that don't have it. But for the cutscenes, the voice acting does really help to sell that story. It's way more impactful, for sure.
Yeah. And as I say, like with the complaining, there's always going to be complaints, and it's not just Nintendo games. I remember back when Final Fantasy X came out, it was a big thing. Everyone was complaining about Titus's voice, and it's like, why? It's like, is this really where you go around? Like, do you complain about your coworkers' voices, and like, is that like a common thing where it's like there's just all these voices we're not fans of? Like, there's got to be some diversity.
Yeah, diversity doesn't bother me.
A lot of games.
Diversity doesn't bother me, but there are times when the voice acting can be bad.
It definitely can be, but when it's, I don't know. I feel like if the voice acting is mediocre and gets the job done, don't complain like it's terrible. It's definitely better than not having it at all.
Yeah, I would say, like, obviously, like, Breath of the Wild is, like, a pretty recent example for us as Nintendo fans. And one thing is that some people might say the voice acting is bad in that game. I wouldn't say it's bad, but what I think the issue is with Breath of the Wild is because Link is a silent protagonist, right? The way some of these scenes are scripted, there are kind of, like, awkward moments because it's like they're having a conversation, but only one of them is talking.
Yeah, Link's not.
Right? So, I think that's kind of what may lead to some awkwardness that maybe some people might perceive as bad voice acting. Sometimes it's not the voice actor's fault, it's kind of just like the situation they're put into, you know? Like, for example, think of a bad movie. If a bad movie oftentimes is bad because of the director, not the actors, right? So, like, there's only so much that can be done from the actor's perspective. Like, they are kind of like nice details for a movie, but a movie needs good direction in order for the scenes to be good. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I do think
Another one that was interesting.
a little bit, though.
Yeah. Xenoblade got some complaints about the weird pacing of their voice acting, where in reality what ended up happening was the Japanese voiceovers were longer than the English ones.
Right.
So you have like they had to make a choice. Do they have weird pauses between everyone's words, or do they have a weird pause at the beginning, a weird pause at the end? Because they weren't redoing the cutscenes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Everyone hated on Rex's voice acting. He's not that bad. He's no Shulk. He's no who does Shulk's? I forget his name. He's no that guy, but he's not terrible.
It's Ryan time. I'm trying to remember Rex's voice in English. I don't remember it, but I know I don't like it as much as his Japanese voice.
I don't like the Japanese voice acting as much, honestly, for those games.
Interesting.
Didn't even turn on the Japanese voice acting.
Yeah, that's just like a difference of taste there, right? Like, because I watch a lot of anime in Japanese, like, for me, it feels more natural to listen in Japanese. Although I play Breath of the Wild in English. And then I tried to replay it in Japanese. And I mean, it sounds good in Japanese, too, but it is...
Yeah.
I saw the original I always tie the original Xenoblade with the British voice acting. So that's why I think it makes more sense for the British voice acting in my own headcanon.
Yeah.
For that
Yeah,
series.
I would have turned on the Japanese voice acting if I actually got annoyed by the spinning blade yelling every, half second. But I have kids, so I hear the same thing repeated for hours on end, so it is what it is.
What's funny, though, is that playing the game in Japanese, like, a lot of people were, like, saying, like, oh, these characters are repeating all these different stuff. When I play it in Japanese, I don't notice. Right?
Yeah,
I just hear them making noises.
That's why I would have switched it over.
Yeah. So it didn't bother me as much as it did. But I mean, they kind of became memes. Like, people started making fun of it. Like, if you play that game back in English, it's kind of funny.
And then they fixed it and like, oh, why?
Yeah, you missed it. It was kind of quirky, for sure. But
don't forget me.
So well, one more thing I want to talk about for Pokemon before I move on. But I just want to check in with the chat real quick. Terry added that Titus laugh was supposed to be bad. I heard it was even bad in the Japanese version. Yep, I mean, sometimes things can be so bad that they're good. Grief and Golem. Zeke's voice acting was amazing in that game. Zeke is a beast. Love Zeke. He's so cool. And guys, I have faith that Samus will return someday. He's probably gonna come watch the podcast like, what are they talking about, man? Yeah, everyone in the chat loves you. Geek, what's up? How you doing? But what? I feel Rex and Nia are the only ones with some bad voice acting. All the others were either great or pretty decent.
I didn't think Nia had bad voice acting at all. I thought Rex was a little bit bad at some points, but it's fine most of the time.
Hello there, a little squirt. Yeah, I mean, it's not perfect, but I think it's okay. It's good enough for me.
I thought Nia's was perfectly fine.
I'll say that because I played the Japanese version first, and then when I would go back to the English one, like some of the voices were like, oh, that's not kind of how I saw the character. Like they do have kind of like a different feel. Like Pyra's voice is
their feel in the
right now. It doesn't bother me, but because I got used to it. But at first, Pyra's voice felt like it just feels like a different person. Like if you know what I mean.
It is kind of like it is very different. Yeah.
Pyra seems like more doting and naive. Yeah.
The
innocent and naive in Japanese.
Also is like very different. The Nopon that runs the merchant group, yeah, he's so different in he's I don't like his Japanese voice acting at all. He's so boring. And the American or the British, the English version is so much more interesting. He's so much better of a character in the English version.
Now I kind of wish I had played it with the Japanese just so that I could actually tell the difference.
New Game Plus. Do it now.
Yeah, I still have to go back. Do so much in that game.
I'm actually.
Anytime.
Ooh, how should I play? I'm probably gonna play Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition in English because I played the original in English. Like I want to re-experience that.
The English voice actors are really good in the original Xenoblade.
As we remember.
Yeah.
Probably like
they are.
I'm just saying really standards are different now compared to then. So we'll see.
I've heard it pretty.
Do you think are they gonna? Do we know if they're gonna recast the voices though? They might.
I don't.
Do you think they'll just reuse the same audio from last time?
Yeah.
I feel like they would.
I think the audio is high quality enough to just reuse it.
I feel like that'd be a mistake if you didn't.
Yeah, I would be upset if they redo it.
How many think of how many times you watch like a TV series and then replace a character and you're like, I just no.
Yeah.
It's like, is the voice acting bad? No, it isn't, but it's not the same character. And I feel like you're getting into that same thing. So if they have the audio and the audio is good enough, they really should just use it. And they also probably have, you were probably also listening to compressed audio. They can uncompress it or change how they compress it. They have the original.
Right. They can still probably offer decent audio quality with the original voiceovers. Maybe. I'll say just like to your point about like changing actors, like I just saw Joker, which I thought was really good. Kind of blew my mind a little bit. It was definitely really good. But I just when I get home, I do like the YouTube search on like what people are saying about Joker, and that led me into like looking into the Batman trilogy that came out a few years ago, and they actually changed the voice actor, not the voice, well, the whole actor, not just her voice, the whole actor for Batman's love interest from the first to the second movie. Same person, but she looks completely different. And I remember watching it when I was younger, and I was like, what the hell, man? Why? What did she do? Did she get plastic surgery? What's going on? Like, it was definitely weird. So I prefer it when the acting is consistent. So if they did recast, and they would need to, I would appreciate if it was like the same people, but that's not always possible. So
yeah. Well, one thing they have done in the past is cast people that are meant to mimic the originals, because they
can do a pretty good job sometimes.
Yeah, they had to do that with How to Train Your Dragon 3.
Okay.
For Hidden World.
And at least with voice acting, it's easier to do because you don't have to show their face; you just have to show the voice.
Yeah, you're not changing it like you're just changing a character. Because they had to find someone that could mimic the inflections in the voice and how the voice was done, so they didn't have to redo the mouth on one character for an entire movie.
I'll say that's hard. That's harder though. That's more work than just reusing the old one, because you have to make sure that the new one matches the old one. Like that takes more work than just acting something new.
Yeah, but when you get a big scandal, you gotta do what you gotta do. They had the distance, so that sucked for them, but they got it through and it worked out. So you can find people like that'll do the voice acting very similar.
Okay, I want you guys' opinion on this, because I think Grief and Golem, he's asking an interesting question here. He's asking, which Zelda would you say would have the deepest voice? Like, I have to think about that.
I'd
Only
have to go
one
back
Zelda
and
has
listen.
actually had, like, a voice. Okay, so maybe Tetra, personality-wise, would make sense to have the deepest voice, because she's a pirate, she deals with dudes all the time. Like, if she had a voice, right, like, if they made a new Wind Waker game, and Tetra was on the ship with all these macho pirates all the time, and she's the boss of them, it would make sense for her to have more of a deep voice to be more commanding of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I had to bet which Zelda would hypothetically have the deepest voice, I think I would go with her. Not Skyward Sword Zelda. Like, she has one of, like, the most ladylike voices. Breath of the Wild Zelda obviously is pretty ladylike because we can hear her voice. Twilight Princess Zelda seems pretty, like, authoritarian.
Mm-hmm.
But she's still gonna speak very, like, elegantly, right? And softly because she's a princess. So I gotta go with Tetra, because she's not... Her day job isn't princess, right? So she doesn't have to hold herself to, like, that more elegantly, more soft princess sort of voice. So Tetra, that's my bet.
I'd have to agree. I'd say deeper and raspy.
Yeah, she's probably screaming all day.
Rasp.
That rasp is gonna come from being out on the sea, hunting fishes and screaming like, yeah.
The only other one that could even, like, I don't even think it would even come close, but the only other one I would even consider would be Sheik.
But that's her masking. Oh well.
Yeah, because you'd be masking the voice.
It's
but
not
again,
her actual voice, but it would be her masking her voice.
Yeah, so.
But still,
But I still don't think that doesn't match with Tetra.
Yeah.
I think that's the only one I would give.
Because Tetra's, like you said, she would have a raspy voice. Like, if she's actually, like, a pirate captain, she would be screaming all day long. Like, yeah.
Gotta bark those commands out.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think we've come to an agreement here. Brand, do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I've never really thought about this before.
Yeah, which is why I thought it was a very interesting question by Grief and Golem, because we just...
Awesome question.
Yeah. But the consensus is Tetra would have the deepest voice of all Zeldas. There we go.
There you go.
Cool.
I like it.
Cool. So we're gonna get through some of the questions here, and then we're gonna jump to the next topic. Let's see here. Computer robots added me. OMG, can we talk about Mario Kart Tour and what you guys think can be improved in the game? Less things to buy, more free stuff, and combine the tilt, the turning and drift controls somehow. That's kind of what I would like to see, I guess.
I did attempt to do the motion controls with the
work?
touch controls.
No.
No, because the
Is it like patting your head and rubbing your belly?
No, it's
Okay.
just the motion controls are so unsensitive. Like, you have to turn so much just to do anything, and it feels terrible and sluggish. And the motion controls just aren't good. If they were good, then it would work fine, but they're not good, so it's trash.
Yeah. I see Geek as asking if we have played Xenogears. I have not played Xenogears.
No.
Is that on
I
Switch?
played it so long
Have they
ago, I
ported
do
it to
not
Switch?
remember it at all.
I wouldn't mind if they ported it over to Switch. I might give it a try then.
Yeah.
That'd be nice to see.
I think
But
the rights for Xenogears might also be with somebody else.
that would be
I
hard.
think they
but
share the rights with somebody else, but I don't know that.
If it's not Sony, then they could bring it over eventually.
It would be, well, it was on PlayStation, so I
Right.
don't know if it has anything to do with. But I'm pretty sure that whole studio was. Oh, was it still Monolith then? Because Monolith was designed to not be tied down.
Right. Well, like it used to be
by Namco.
SquareSoft, right? With
Right.
Namco.
Namco, yeah.
Yeah, because they left SquareSoft and then they
became Monolith
they had
Soft, and then
some-
SquareSoft
they had
became
some-
Square, and then Enix.
They had
Actually.
some affiliations along the way, and then they ended up going with Nintendo just because things gelled well, basically.
if Shadow Next is also saying that Xenogears is owned by Namco, like if it's owned by Namco, then I don't see why it couldn't be ported over to Switch eventually, right? If there's some demand for it, because it's the Xenoblade series is obviously somewhat popular on Switch, so they could definitely sell from that point alone. And Namco has a pretty good relationship with Nintendo. They developed Smash. They failed developing Metroid, but they tried. Like, supposedly.
You know what else Namco is good at? They like
writing
money.
games. Oh, that too.
So yeah, I could see it happen. If they think
sure.
it'll sell, they'd do it.
For sure.
I mean, it's a port. It's going to make money and cost less than developing a brand new game. If it's in the vein of like what Final Fantasy has been doing with their ports, dropping everything on Switch.
Yeah. So one question I missed is from Brandon the Stallion. He asked, do you think that Paper Mario will be announced in the November Direct? We get a PM every 4 years, a Paper Mario every 4 years, and now that AD is bankrupt, Nintendo no longer has their main Mario RPG, which means Paper Mario could go back to its roots.
Right. I have
possibly
heard people talk about that, and it does make sense. Now they could keep just making Mario and Luigi games because they still own the rights to that.
Yeah, they could. True. I want a Mario RPG series. Maybe it could be for Paper Mario, right? But you know me and my love for Geno and Super Mario RPG. It'd be cool if they kind of did something with that. Right? Even if they just bring Geno like into Paper Mario and go back to the roots of Paper Mario, that would be cool to see. Like that would be nice. And yeah, I could see it maybe getting more of a focus since there's only one Mario RPG now, or one developer to make it. I guess I don't know.
I could see it like that kind of stuff happening. The problem is that you're saying because the one went bankrupt, would we have the announcement now? It's like no, that would be their next project, is what I would assume.
Right.
If that's the way Nintendo was going to go, I doubt they were expecting, like, even if a studio was having issues, I doubt they expected to go bankrupt. So I wouldn't say quite that soon. It would be nice to see it because I know a lot of people want it.
So I do think that I feel like Nintendo knows that Paper Mario fans don't want to buy a game that's not an RPG anymore. Like, they've been getting no good reception or sales from these games.
And Paper Mario is a series
they know that we want RPG. They've commented on before. They're like, yeah, we know you want that, but we have Mario and Luigi. It's like, okay, then what are you doing? Like, this is still what we can have both. So I feel like if they were gonna make, like, if they had already started on a Paper Mario game, it would have been an RPG, because otherwise, I feel like it's just not gonna sell.
That makes sense. I agree that there probably is a Mario RPG coming soon. And I feel like Paper Mario has been fairly popular. Like, they keep trying to make a Paper Mario game. Like, they haven't stopped making Paper Mario. They stopped making F-Zero. They stopped making Wave Race. They stopped making Metroid. They sort of stopped making Star Fox, right? And we have hope that those will come back. But Paper Mario is a series that is at least happening once per system per generation. So, like, I feel fairly confident in saying that there will be some sort of Paper Mario game on Switch. Like, that's not I feel like that's a safe bet, right? So,
yeah. Sooner
or later, will it happen? Will it be announced at a November Direct? I don't even know if there will be a November Nintendo Direct. So I'm not sure. But if there's a Paper Mario game planned for early next year, then maybe. If not, then I would say no.
Right. It has been a while since Color Splash, but they could still wait a few years.
That graphical engine for Color Splash was nice.
It was awesome.
So
that was like the best part
they could build off that to make another Paper Mario pretty quickly if they wanted to.
Yeah.
Just change the mechanics a little bit. But yeah, for sure. So one more question here that I got added by. It was a couple. Missed it. Computer Robots. He asked all of us, how about a Legend of Zelda mobile game? People would love that. Yes, but how are they going to handle that? I don't know what they will do. Like, I feel like it'll be a 2D. I just don't know what direction they'll go with.
It be a 2D, but
will it though?
I don't think they do it.
They don't have
because
definitely not be.
How do you microtransaction it? So
they'll find a way.
They'll find a way.
That's the problem.
You already got your currency with rupees.
Nintendo doesn't want to alienate people. They don't want to. They don't like. Again, the brand image is so important to them that yes, they can put out something like Mario Kart that has unlockables, but like your unlockables in Zelda are how you progress through dungeons. So do you lock those behind? So I feel like what would end up happening is you get something along the lines of like what they did with Mario Run, where it's free to start and then it's $10 to unlock the rest of the game, but that model doesn't work as well as you would like.
Right, with
So
Mario Kart, yeah, I see what you're saying.
I don't even
I feel like Zelda does not monetize as well as other properties do, and I don't see a logical monetization for a mobile game. And
unless
that's why
they
I
don't do
think
the
they do
traditional Zelda game, like they do something based off the Zelda franchise that's like a different kind of game, like maybe something more along the lines of a Hyrule Warriors, but you know, for phones.
Right.
Then it could be like if it was like something closer to Hyrule Warriors, but for phone, maybe 2D or something like that.
Could be interesting.
Then you could probably, obviously Hyrule Warriors could easily be monetized with all the characters and items and weapons, like something like that. Sure, but not a traditional Zelda experience on the phone. I would agree.
I could see playing like Spirit Tracks or Phantom Hourglass, just because those were both touch control games, so the exact same way you
my god,
those.
The sequel to Spirit Tracks, it'll be cell shaded Toon Link on and you just play with touchscreen controls. I would hate that so much. Oh,
I loved both of those games. Well, Phantom Hourglass was definitely not as good as Spirit Tracks, but I think it could work just because they're both touchscreen controls.
You know, it'd be interesting if Nintendo just kind of like went back to some of their cool like DS games that happened and sort of like replicated that on the phone, because on the phone
I'm surprised
that can
Brain
happen.
Age isn't on the phone, to be honest. I'm surprised that's coming to the
because
Switch
they're waiting for a rainy day where they need a lot of money to be made first.
Oh, that thing will. Oh, can you imagine globally how powerful that would be as a mobile game?
Right. Well, maybe they want to do the Switch game first, and then they'll try the mobile one, because makes so much sense.
That's one of those ones.
That's one of the ones that I probably would buy on phone and prefer it on phone.
Yeah, well, it's one of they keep loving we release a mobile game, it gets like everything gets really popular. It gets a lot of eyes on it. We get a lot of new eyes, and then we release something for the Switch and get increased sales off of it. And I feel like this might go the other way. I don't think people would buy a Switch to play Brain Age if you could have it on your phone.
Right. It definitely seems better suited for phones, to be honest.
It does.
Oh, that would make so much money.
At the same time, though, they had the Dr. Mario game that didn't do that well, apparently, comparatively to other Nintendo mobile games, and that seemed like something more suiting for mobile as well.
But
yeah,
I don't know. Brain Age. Think about like them on TV marketing a cell phone Brain Age game to like an older crowd. Seniors.
I'm in full agreement that Brain Age has extreme amounts of potential. Right there with you. All I was saying is that it's not 100% and something knocked out of the park, right? But I'm gonna bet that it would be a knockout. Like they will do really good if they do this for sure. Oh. Almost for sure.
I have to agree. But again, mobile market, anything can happen.
Right. I would like to see that. A Zelda thing, hard to say how exactly it'll happen. You know what, computer robots? I don't like what you said. He added me, he said, I'm actually surprised that Andres actually keeps up with the chat tonight. Well, I'll have you know, I'm actually very tired, and my life is a mess right now. And I'm moving out in less than a week, and I have so much going on right now, I almost decided to cancel the podcast and every single video this week. I'm not even joking, I'm being like dead serious. But I didn't, and I'm here, and I'm chatting with you guys, okay? So, I'm trying. Shadow of Nexus added me. Xenoblade was actually supposed to be called Monado, the beginning of the world. It doesn't have anything to do with Xenogears or Xenosaga. Yeah, I'm aware that the stories don't actually connect, but I mean, Xenogears did happen beforehand. It is, in a way, like a spiritual predecessor, or, but yeah, I definitely understand that.
It's called Xeno because the other ones are called Xeno.
Right.
The developers.
Monolith, some of their members did work on Xenogears in the past, before, they worked for Nintendo. They work for Nintendo now. But let's jump into the Smash conversation. Actually, one more thing about Pokemon, because it came up earlier in my head, I didn't bring it up. Just an interesting thing, because I brought up like some of the quality of life changes, right? Like the whole accessing your PC box from the wild area, the glowing yellow Pokemon that roam around, the roaming Pokemon, things like that. Also, how your experience, it's gathered with all of your Pokemon at the same time, right? Just like Let's Go. There's a lot of things, now that we're learning more about Pokemon Sword and Shield, that seem to have been experimented with Pokemon Let's Go. Which is interesting to see, because when we first saw Pokemon Sword and Shield, it didn't look like they were taking anything from Let's Go, like with the first trailer, but actually, there are several things that they tried out with Let's Go that they're now doing in Sword and Shield. Just thought I'd bring that up because it's interesting.
Yeah.
Like I think it just goes to show you that when Game Freak comes out with a game, that game is kind of like them still working on their next game. Like Let's Go was, when they said that Let's Go helped them get used to the system and try out different ideas for Pokemon, they were being serious, right? Like Let's Go did help them get ready for Sword and Shield. They tried out some of the mechanics, and we're seeing them in Sword and Shield, but the good ones that make sense.
Honestly, I think Game Freak has been overly honest with us, and I think it's hurt them. As much as
it's an interesting
people want to yell at them right now, and they're not happy with the decisions, I think a lot of them came from a place of wanting to be honest with us, and this is a good reason why a lot of companies are not honest with us, is because when they are, a lot of people make a lot of assumptions without actually knowing or digging into it, and then it runs wild over social media, and then that machine starts going, and then things start snowballing, and that's why we end up getting that's why companies hide things from you, is because they're trying to avoid this much backlash. And I feel like, I honestly don't know if there are too many other IPs strong enough to weather this storm.
Yeah, because we know Pokemon's going to sell regardless.
Yeah.
But there are going to be a lot of negative fan reviews.
It's getting review bombed.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, thanks for asking, Lil Square. He's asking, when you move out, are you keeping your cat? So, sadly, right, my brother is still here, and technically, the dog and the cats are my brother's. So, at least for now, none of them will be coming with me. So, it's kind of like a little heart-wrencher for me, because I love these animals so much. I love my family here, too. I love my brother and my cousins a lot, but the situation I'm moving to is supposed to be an improvement for me. It's going to really help me to, one, make more money, I'm getting a better job, right? But hopefully this job will also help me out with my channel as well. So I'll be able to perform, make better content, do better stuff. And I'm still going to visit here. It's still family to me. It's only going to be a few hours away. So, yeah, but no, they won't be with me. So it is a little bit of a heart-wrencher for me. But, it'll be fine. So, I love my Pokemon in real life. Yeah. Yeah. But, let's just move on to Smash. Just talk about the Smash. So, let me cut out this process off over here. Alright. Unless there's anything else you guys want to bring up for Pokemon, which is fine. And we can still talk about Pokemon later. That's always an option.
I'm good.
Alright, we'll just jump into Smash and we'll see what happens. So, a lot of discussions coming up about who is the next DLC character for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Big surprise, right? But the thing is, we've gotten leakers who are credible, reputable leakers who have gotten things right in the past, right? Including Shifty. You guys know Shifty. He's a good friend of ours, right? He's heard about Ryu Hayabusa, right? That's what he's hearing. And there are other people who have heard the same thing. But then there was this other supposedly credible leaker who was hearing about Crash Bandicoot as the final character. So, and this person also has a history of getting some things right as well, apparently. But then, what's interesting to me is that both sides have heard something about Geno. I haven't heard specifically from Shifty about Geno, but I've heard other people who supposedly are the same, coming from the same source, that have heard about Geno. But not confident, but it's come up, murmurings of it. So either way, if it's Crash or if it's Ryu, my hope for Geno Beyond is yeah, it's coming from both sides, so I'm excited about that. But you have both these different sides. Which one could be right? One or the other? Maybe neither. And actually, let me see here. Whatchamacallit. I have a little thing to This is from Sabby. Sabby is a known leaker who's gotten a lot of things right. So this is from what he's hearing. I'm not leaning towards Rio Hayabusa or Crash for Fighters Pass number 5. I'm not deconfirming them for Fighter 5, just considering them very unlikely based on some new private developments. I can't share anything else right now. So, he's not deconfirming or confirming, right? That's just things that happen that he's hearing, right? Like, and it's interesting because I don't know what's going to happen. I'll say that Terry Bogard was not at all expected for the 4th Fighters Pass, like the 4th one in the Fighters Pass, and it happened. And it was a big surprise, right? Well, it was leaked like a day beforehand, right? But the leak a day beforehand was a big surprise. So, yeah, for this 5th one, it's really hard for me to say like which one it's actually going to be. I don't know. It could be, it's either Ryu, it's either Crash, or something else, which is literally everything. What do you guys think?
Well, at this point in time, did they not announce that there was going to be more DLC fighters afterwards?
Yes. So
all could be legit. They just might not be number 5.
Possibly. Right? Like initially, Ryu was heard for Fighters Pass 4, but didn't happen. But they still feel confident Ryu was happening, right? Like sometimes timing is really just the issue here. Absolutely. Another interesting thing, like we heard about Erdrick for a while, before he was revealed, but he was revealed at the same time as Banjo. You know, like we didn't think. Now, some people didn't think we would get both of them at the same time. So sometimes when people get this information, the timing of it could be weird. Another interesting thing, like Virgibin, he's been saying Minecraft content, which has not been revealed yet. Maybe it could still happen, right? Like just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean he was wrong, right? Like there's still content that could be planned for the future. You don't know. So that's definitely a possibility. And I'll say that Crash makes a lot of sense to be in Smash Brothers, right? Ryu also has like those roots with Nintendo. So both of them I could see making it in. But it's kind of, if I had to pick between Crash or Ryu, I'm going to go with Ryu just because I trust the source information for that a little bit more. But, man, it's a toss-up.
Now, do you think they could do 2 fighters as Fighter Pass 5, just as the nice way to end the Fighters Pass?
I don't think
I think if it's like not 2 third-party characters, right? Like it could be like one more third-party character, and then Nintendo will be like, oh, like here's a bonus character at the end, right? The only quote-unquote third-party character would be Geno as a bonus character, because that's a very like Nintendo-centric character that would be like kind of like a deal between Nintendo and Square, maybe. But they also already have like his spirit in the game, so maybe they don't even need to get any more rights for it. Not sure. So maybe Geno could be like a bonus character, right? Which has come up on different sides of these rumors as a possibility afterwards. So, you know, maybe that. But I don't expect, like, for example, for Sakurai to come out in November. It's like, hey guys, guess what? So for for this Final Fighters Pass, we're gonna give you both Crash and Ryu Hayabusa, because these are actual like deals with third-party companies, right? Like there's money to be made from these third-party companies, so they wouldn't like launch both at the same time from 2 different companies. I don't see that happening because there's a deal in place to have for that 5th spot. Like there's a certain company that is looking forward to that character getting revealed at the right time. It'll boost their own sales and their own, you know, popularity. Like that's a deal that was made. So that's how I kind of see it. But maybe a bonus character that's more Nintendo-centric. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if they were going to do that, it'd be a Nintendo character as the second one, but I don't see that happening, to be honest. Especially since there's more DLC coming after. It's kind of... I don't see why they would do that.
Yeah. Hard to say. I mean, at the same time, like, there's DLC coming beyond this, so it's really hard to sort of, like if we get Crash now, Ryu could still come later, or vice versa. I've also heard Reimu come up, right? I don't know too much about Reimu, or Reimu.
I don't know who that is.
I don't know too much about Reimu, but I've heard it come up. I'm sure some people in the chat be like, yeah, of course, Reimu, how could you not know?
I'm over here like, Rimu, yes, my favorite.
I
yes.
got no idea.
That's what
I
you're
got nothing.
about.
Yeah, the ultimate. Okay, I see her.
Yeah,
I've heard.
jogged
Okay,
so
I've seen
many
her come up
movies.
before. Like whenever I make Smash videos, people like bring her up, but I don't know too much about her. I'll just pull up an image of her real quick, so just like to show her off. So what Google images? This girl from a game. I don't know what she's from.
Okay.
I guess Sega Toho Project, the Toho character. I've never played this series.
Don't know what that is.
I've
Yes.
I've heard it come up a couple times, but that's it.
I will agree because I know nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've literally never heard of this person.
Yeah, but yeah, for that reason, I would say like she's like not super likely. Just like I know more. I didn't know that much about Terry Bogard though. In fairness, right? Like Terry Bogard for some people was just like completely unheard of. So the premise of a character that we don't know too much about isn't necessarily like an indicator that it can't happen, right? Like it actually could, in a way, make sense because it could bring this character to light. A lot of people will see this character, they'll be talked about, and maybe will consider buying their game, right? That makes sense. But I don't know it. I know very little about this character to really speak on it, so I'm not going to. But if it happens, yo, that's cool. We haven't gotten any like female third-party characters, so I wouldn't mind it necessarily.
Yeah, I mean we don't have any female characters in the past so far, so.
Yeah. Just checking in with the chat here. I've seen people talk about, bring up the Smash thing. Actually, before we do that, Solo Jones, yeah, I mean, what obligatory, unwanted Nintendo spin-off do you think we'll see this gen? Eat, like example, Captain Falcon's Fishing Adventure, Yoshi does his taxes. Unwanted Nintendo spin-off. That's an interesting question, Solo Jones.
See, it's unwanted, so it's like
hard to say. I think I don't know because I don't want it.
It's a very interesting question.
What one that's like likely? Like I gotta come up with some, but I don't think they're gonna happen.
Right.
Right. Like
right.
One that could happen that I don't want. Like, could it be a sequel to an already established spin-off series? If that's the case,
Think of...
well, I mean, I'll tell you one now, but you guys are gonna hate me for it. Mario and Luigi RPG. I never really got into the Mario and Luigi series. Like, I like Paper Mario. I like Super Mario RPG. I never loved Mario. Well, it's not even that I hated it. It just was never something. Like, if it comes out, I won't be like, oh, damn it. I'll be like, okay, cool. I'll look into it if it introduces some mechanics to get me into it.
Is just an absolutely incredible game.
Yeah.
It's one of the best games on the DS. It's absolutely stellar. It's amazing. So. And the other ones are pretty good. I haven't played them myself, but I've seen other people play them. They seem pretty good.
You know what's a spin-off I would like to see come back? Well, it's not even a spin-off, it's just an IP that hasn't been used. Cubivore.
I don't know much about that.
Yeah, well, maybe you should. Or Chibi Robo would be nice to see.
Chibi Robo
yeah.
is definitely a wanted one.
Okay, no, I got it. This is a possible spin-off that could happen that I would not want. A spin-off of Chibi Robo. Like, not actual Chibi Robo, a spin-off of Chibi Robo. Yeah, another one. That would be upsetting to me. Solo Jones asked us, what obligatory unwanted Nintendo spin-off do you think we'll see this gen? Like Captain Falcon's Fishing Adventure or Yoshi Does His Taxes? The best bet, like actual, like realistic, semi-realistic idea for something I wouldn't want but might happen, a spin-off for Chibi Robo. As opposed to a real Chibi Robo.
That's a tough one.
Actually, there is.
I would have to actually put some time into thinking, but I thought we already got that spin-off no one wanted, and that was Mario plus Rabbids, and it turned out pretty good.
Yeah,
right?
It did. That is true.
That was actually good.
You know what's one that was rumored that I don't think will happen anymore, but because it was rumored, I'm going to bring it up. Star Fox Grand Prix. No one wanted Star Fox to become a racer, right? So
no, they want Star Fox.
Yeah, another one that happened a few years ago, Metroid Federation Force. That was super unwanted. Yeah, that was pretty abysmal. Even though the game wasn't that bad, my only issue with it was that it didn't. Anytime I tried to play with my friends online, like to do the co-op, which is what the game was about, playing co-op, I would always get disconnects. So I never finished the game. Like I barely started it.
You know, I know what it's gonna be. It's gonna be F-Zero, and it's gonna come as a mobile only game. That's how they're gonna bring back F-Zero.
Oh, you're hurting people there.
Nobody's gonna like it. Everybody's gonna complain.
I can't handle it.
And yeah.
No, I can't. I'm just that was
So-
too much for me.
Just cutting people's souls down on that one.
Yeah.
I'm ending the stream now.
And Mother 3 is gonna finally come. It's gonna come, but it's gonna be on phones.
Stop it. We're moving on.
I feel at this point, if Mother 3 came and it was on phones, people would just be like, good enough.
Yeah, I mean
Got
that's a
ported to
good point.
Switch.
Like it's better than nothing. That's a fair point.
I mean, well, let's be honest. The Final Fantasies that went to mobile wasn't the end of the world, and those ended up on Switch. So, it could happen.
Yeah. It wouldn't upset people as much as when Diablo went mobile.
Ooh.
Yeah. So Terry added me, regardless of who the Challenger Pack 5 is, I believe that Ryo Hayabusa and Crash Bandicoot will be DLC fighters. I also believe that Gino, Rayman, Lloyd Irving, and Shantae will be DLC fighters. I don't feel as confident about all of those characters being DLC fighters, but when you consider that there's going to be extra DLC fighters, we don't know how long they'll go. Those are all characters that are highly requested, so they all have pretty good chances. So I'm not going to say, oh, that was a bad idea, Terry. No, I think that there's definitely a chance that could happen.
I'm just kind of waiting for the day that Ubisoft finally gets a rep.
Yeah. I would, have we seen like a Tales of Symphonia remaster at all recently? Like it'd be nice to see a Tales of Symphonia remake or something. Maybe that's happening.
Is there not a Tales game on Switch already?
I think there is one coming to
Probably
Switch.
something.
I think.
I thought there was one already out.
It's something I was do a Google search for.
I thought that one was coming 2020.
I just remember them talking about it. I remember people talking about it. People excited.
I feel like I'm confusing it with Secret of Mana.
Yeah, there's a lot of those games coming out.
Tales games on the Switch.
Tales of Vesperia is what I'm seeing.
Tales of Vesperia.
I do think that is a thing.
Yeah, that is a thing. That's real. It already exists. Play it. Yeah. There are some Tales games apparently. Anyway, moving on. Where are we here? Mastermind. For some reason, I don't think it's Doom Guy either. I think the last fighter is going to surprise us. Definitely don't know who it might be. Oh, Doom Guy doesn't seem as likely to me anymore. Still a possibility, but especially with Doom Eternal getting delayed. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter. Maybe it doesn't really matter that much if Doom Eternal is delayed a few months because it's still coming, right? So.
But at the same time, if they have their fighters pass, and then they have a couple characters that are interchangeable, and then down the road it's like, well, we have other ones coming.
Yeah, it's Doom. Maybe it
just went whoop.
They could swap them. That's true.
Yeah.
Just swap them out so it lines up better with the release.
Right.
That's, it's something I wouldn't have ever thought of Nintendo doing until just how well they've planned and worked all their releases and their third-party releases around to make sure everything has windows. I would. That's something.
Right,
I never
maybe they have multiple. Yeah,
Yes.
it makes sense. Yeah, if because development is fluid, right? Like sometimes things don't work out, so they want to, because they get updates on how development is going. If they realize that the scheduling wouldn't work out to have that character there, they can move them, which could add to why sometimes leakers come out with a certain, like for example, the Ryo Hayabusa thing. Like if Ryo ends up being the 5th character, but actually it was initially planned to be the 4th. Maybe there's a Ninja Gaiden game that's in the works, but they're not really ready to announce it yet, so they pushed off. They pushed up the Ryo Hayabusa reveal, and they had Terry come out now.
It's possible.
Maybe.
And it is far enough away from the 5th fighter that they could have time to change it if they wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not like it's like a month from when they're gonna release it or something.
Yeah. So Terry added me again. I think the Minecraft content is a stage and music tracks. So it wouldn't shock me, actually, especially because the whole Vergeman thing, like, he was very confident about that, and he had such a good track record with, like, everything with the base roster for Smash Ultimate, so he has legitimate intel on Smash inner workings, right? So maybe, you know, maybe it'll happen. And there's actually a leak we're going to be talking about in a bit that kind of brings that up. Not that I believe the leak, but, you know, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let's see here. Little Skirt wants Rayman. Yeah, I've been wanting Rayman for years, for multiple Smash games.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. Terry, I think we'll get a Japanese indie character with Reimu and a US indie character with Shantae. Obviously not at the same time, but yeah, I would. I'm on the Shantae train, right? And I know a lot of people want Reimu, so if that happened, I'd be happy with it. But there's just so many characters that could maybe happen or might not happen.
I'd be surprised if there were 2 indie characters. Maybe 1, maybe. But I honestly don't think any of them would be indie characters, but it's possible. I think Sans is about as close as we're gonna get.
Perhaps. Yeah, that makes sense.
Alex, you got like me costume.
What?
It could be like another like me fighter.
Yeah, they could get me costumes.
They could do that, right?
Yeah, they could do that for sure. I'll be upset if Gino was a me costume though. Especially because he was already a me costume in Smash 4 and they haven't announced, like, released him yet. Like, they've just been kind of dangling that for a while.
How nasty would that be if they just like, no, we just pulled it over. There you go.
Like that's the bonus. That's the speculated bonus thing at the end of the Fighters Pass. Hey guys, thanks for getting the Fighters Pass. Here's Gino as a me costume. Enjoy.
Right. I feel like Piranha Plant was already kind of a bonus character. So
yeah, we already got a bonus character. A second one would be. I'm not expecting that at all. It's just speculation that's come up, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm not gonna be upset. What? I didn't hear that.
I feel like they do a full character on. They wouldn't be a costume.
If it was Gino, yeah, they would do a full character at this point.
I could see a costume for like Shantae.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess Reimu too, because that's an indie character, apparently.
Yeah.
So, makes sense. Let's see here. Alexander Christopher Hernandez. For me, both the belief that spirits will become fighters and the one where they won't become are as damaging to people as the other. It's better to keep expectancy low, at least for me. Yeah, I mean, you know, you can't just assume things are going to happen, right? We don't know exactly how the plans are going to turn out, so definitely, you know, keeping your expectations in check. I'm not going to fault you for doing that. Not at all. Brian Stallion. What?
Pretty healthy way. It's a healthy way of doing it right now.
Yeah.
Especially see it like on the internet where there's so many ideas and the expectations, like all the ideas come together and all of a sudden that's the expectation. I think there's a lot of that going on these days. And keeping it in check is a smart way of doing it.
Right. Brian Stallion. Hey Andres, I think Gino will be Fighter 5, Rio Hayabusa will be Fighter 1 of Pass 2, Crash will be Fighter 2, and I think the third fighter will once again be a Microsoft rep, and it'll be Master Chief!
I would love it if it was Master Chief, but I just don't feel like
and next year, along with Master Chief HD Collection or something. That'd be nuts. I think we got... Wild. Yeah, I'm not expecting that.
I feel like the last thing that Nintendo wants to do is push Microsoft's biggest character in the same year when their next-gen system launches and Halo 5 or Halo Infinite, Halo 6.
Point. No. Yeah. No,
that's the last thing that Nintendo wants.
If anything, maybe Nintendo will allow Link to be in Minecraft as a costume.
Is he not already? I know they have Mario.
Mario is. I don't know about Link.
Is Link not in there?
I'm gonna assume no, but I could be wrong. Geek, if Gino's a me costume, we riot. Perhaps. Yeah, I'll be upset, that's for sure. I would absolutely be disappointed about that. Will I get over it? Yes, but I would be disappointed if that happened. Griefing Golem. This is a shot in the dark, but I'm going to say the Fires Pass ends with Jibanyan and Gino is a gift to those who own the pass before a certain date. Okay. Alright. Computer Robots, what if you guys for the next Fires Pass would be disappointed with the characters that you did not like in the game after you saw the results? Will you buy the second Fires Pass after that? So like, so after the fifth one, if we don't like it, will we be disappointed and not be feeling confident about buying a second Fighters Pass without knowing any of the characters?
No. Personally for me, like even if a character's not a character I wanted, it's still fun to try him out. Like I never cared about Hero coming, but I thought he was really fun to play as. I didn't really care about Joker either. I thought he was fun. I
like the Joker stage. I don't like. I don't hate the Joker character. I just don't love it. But I'm with you, Brandon. Like Heroes, like I'm not a big Dragon Quest fan, but I think Heroes is a really cool addition to Smash Brothers. So.
Yeah.
Well, it's one of those things where, like, I don't know. There's going to be a lot of people that are big on Smash and they're buying it no matter what, even if they hated all the DLC characters so far, which they probably didn't if they're a huge fan. And they're going to buy them. That's good enough. So if you were questioning it, don't buy it until you've seen the fighters. And then once you see something that's like, that's worth it, then you go for it.
Yeah. I think one thing they could do, which maybe wouldn't be like the best idea, it kind of depends on how you look at it, but like maybe offer a bonus character from early on for the second Fighters Pass. Like what if Gino is a bonus character for the second Fighters Pass? Right? You buy the second Fighters Pass, you get Gino before all those come out. But I think what would make sense is that maybe you can get him for free if you buy the second Fighters Pass, but they still offer him separately. Like, because if they locked him behind the second Fighters Pass and not knowing about anything else, I think that would be bad, right? Like, not consumer friendly. But offering him as like a bonus character to give some people who maybe, more reason to buy a second Fighters Pass.
Right.
I think they could do that and offer him as free.
What they did with Piranha Plant, except they didn't link him to the Fighters Pass. They
Right.
linked him to buying the game.
Yeah, it was an early purchase
before
bonus.
a certain time. Yeah.
Right. Something like that I could see them doing. I mean, they did have a bonus for the first Fighters Pass. It was the Rex Me costume.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'll admit, I bought the first Fighters Pass ahead of time just to have the Rex Me costume. I knew I was getting the Fighters Pass anyway, right? So, I was like, alright, I'll get this now. And as far as Me costumes go, it's kind of cool. It's not even close to what I would imagine for a Rex character in Smash Brothers, but neat. Yeah. The comments keep coming here. Mastermind. Maybe Doom Guy will be in Meat costume. I just don't know how his moveset will work. Doom's such a violent game and takes place in hell. That's just me, though. Well, one, I think you just take away the blood and the dismemberment, and you can do everything you want. Like Ridley stabs people with his tail, right? Like I think Snake even has a chokehold, or he at least used to in Brawl. I don't know if they changed that because I haven't played with Snake at all in Smash Ultimate. But, like, they've done things like that, and multiple characters have guns now, so...
Yeah, you got guns, you got rocket launchers, you got all kinds of stuff.
Right, as long as you're not dismembering, like, parts of a character's body that don't naturally come off, like a hat or something, then, because, like, for example, King K. Rool's hat does come off, right, but that's not actually a part of his flesh, so it's okay. But, yeah, just exclude those two things, and I think a Doom character would be fine. It could still look violent and physical. Like, just look at what Ridley does to people, or what Bowser does to people. It looks pretty violent, but it's completely fine because there's no blood or dismemberment. Computer robots. Let me clarify. If Sakurai announced who's going to be in the second Fighters Pass, or just a point of who's going to be in that Fighters Pass, would you still buy?
Oh. Yes.
Oh, if he told us. Oh, if we knew ahead of time of who the second Fighters Pass is. If it's bad to us, would we buy?
I mean,
oh well, actually,
how bad could it be? Unless it's like default skin from Fortnite or something. Like, I'm not gonna be upset enough to not buy the Fighters Pass.
Well, I mean, if they announce them all ahead of time, and there's a couple I don't like at all,
I'd still want to try them out though.
It would have to be so bad. Like, people, like, I would have to hear about other people getting it before me and saying, hey, it's just not that cool. And just, like, I don't see that happening. Because even with perhaps my least favorite character in this current Fighters Pass, which is Joker, I still think the stage is cool. I still think the music is cool. I still would want to try him out. Like, I don't love him as a character, but if I saw him, I'd still want to try him out to see how he plays. So I'd still go for it. It would still make sense for me to just buy the whole Fighters Pass anyway. Even if there's just one character I don't love, the other 4, whatever, 3, I still would want. And I still get those additional stages in music, which are always good. Like, there's no stage or music that I dislike. So it's that alone kind of compels me to get it.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where even if there's one fighter, it to me it would kind of make it worthwhile if there was one that I wanted.
Banjo's made everything worthwhile.
I don't know. It's really hard because you never know what. Like, I know in other games you play long enough, and eventually you're like, done all the. Let's just try this random thing I don't care about, and you're like, oh, I really like this. And these things can happen. Or like, what if you're not interested, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, that fighter. People keep talking about how great that fighter is and how great how fun they are to play. It's like, maybe I should. So I don't know. It would basically take me not interested in any of them to say no, like to a DLC in general. Or if I just wasn't happy with if I wasn't happy with the game, I just wouldn't buy a DLC. Period.
Right.
But if I really enjoy the game and I'm putting in like 1,000 hours or something, it's like I'd put in 1,000 hours. Yeah, I'll give them a little bit extra.
I feel like pretty much the only thing I can think of off the top of my head that would make me be like no would be if it'd have to be like
Jonesy from Fortnite, Minecraft Steve, a Sims character
could still be cool.
Like
their stage could be really fun.
Yeah, and that may happen. So just for fun, I'm gonna come up.
God.
Yeah, I'm gonna come up with a Fighters Pass.
Evil.
We come up with a Fighters Pass that we won't want. There are no stages in this Fighters Pass, so it's cheaper, but there are no stages, right? So that alone kind of takes it away from me. But Jonesy from Fortnite, Minecraft Steve,
Tracer, I don't want
Tracer from Overwatch. What's his name? That's it.
I feel like Tracer is not gonna happen, especially with
none of them are.
Everybody
I don't think any
hates
of them are
Blizzard
happening
these days,
Yeah.
and how political the situation with Blizzard is.
Oof.
I feel like Nintendo does not want to touch any of that.
Maybe, yeah, I don't know. But
They've already tried to distance themselves, so I
Right.
don't think they're going to try to come closer. They might keep it in the background if they were working on it, but even if they were, they're like, that is shelved indefinitely.
Maybe, yeah. That's unfortunate though, because I really hope it doesn't hurt. I mean, it probably is, but the relationship between Blizzard and Nintendo, like I was kind of looking forward to, seeing more support from them.
That might also not mean that Blizzard won't be supporting Nintendo, because Blizzard understands, like. Blizzard, like if this was happening with Nintendo and something crazy was going on and Blizzard was like, we're taking a step back, we can't afford this on our image, I'm sure Nintendo wouldn't be like, well, we're never working with you again.
Right. I mean, there's still money to be made too, right? Like that's really that's as long as there's money to be made, it probably will still happen. But sometimes just because of a relationship, that communication isn't there to really get it going, even if there is money to be made. So we'll have to. I'm concerned. I'm a little concerned.
I don't think there is a problem. I think it's just kind of temporary. I mean, Overwatch still came out on the Switch. It's not like they were
canceled
Overwatch.
Yeah.
They canceled an event, probably due to it was a Blizzard
not
Nintendo.
Yeah.
They probably canceled it because they thought there was gonna be a bunch of backlash and stuff.
Which is interesting. So at the Worlds for Pokemon this summer. I didn't go, but I had friends who went, and they told me they saw people protesting national decks, like they had like little picket signs, and they were marching around outside the convention center of the tournament, saying "Bring back national."
Did they
decks.
not realize that this is gonna do literally nothing? It's not gonna do anything.
Maybe that's
what all you want.
Maybe that's what politicians say when they see us protesting about actual rights. Like, do they not realize that we don't pay attention to protests? We're still going to pass these laws that they don't like?
You see, the thing with that is, I get protesting, but
Well, that's the thing, though. Like, I'm not... I think if they feel that strongly about it, I think they should be allowed to do it. I don't agree with it, but they should still be allowed to do it. My issue, right, isn't so... Because here's the thing. I posted about Twitter, and I think some people are, hating on me right now, because I think they completely misunderstood me. If you are not excited about Pokemon Sword and Shield, that's okay. That's all on you. My problem is that there have been people who have propagated fake news, like literal misinformation. Like this whole idea that town was the focus for Game Freak. Not even remotely close to the truth. This whole idea that there is very little money put into Pokemon Sword and Shield. Not true. We got confirmation that over 1,000 people were involved with Pokemon Sword and Shield. Right? Things like that are fake news or lies that people are propagating, telling others and making them believe like fake information, that I have a problem with. Because that information is making some people who would otherwise be interested in the game not interested in the game. That I have a problem with. But if you have seen Pokemon Sword and Shield, you've seen all the information, you understand what's true and what's not, and you don't like it, that's completely 100% fine. I support you in not liking the game. And if you still feel the need to protest National Dex, that's your opinion. As long as you're not hurting anyone, as long as you're not bothering anyone, that's fine. But I wouldn't think to protest about the National Dex thing at a Pokemon tournament. But some people feel strongly about it, so I'm not gonna fault them for it.
Right. I mean, you can do that. It's just I don't think it's gonna do anything.
It's not, because they've made the decision and they know why they made the decision.
Game's 2 months out.
If it was a tough, like, I'm sure it was a hard decision. It's not like they didn't think this through. It's not like they did this to be like, we're getting back at you guys. They didn't do it because they're lazy, which is the new big buzzword right now for anything you don't like from a game developer, is because they're lazy.
The idea that game developers are lazy is one of the most ridiculous.
Game development's like one of the hardest jobs out there. Like,
it's brutal.
Game development doesn't even pay that much in many cases, and like the amount of hours and effort you put into a game compared to the amount of money you get,
it's ridiculous.
The ratio isn't necessarily fair, right? So
no.
To call game developers lazy, I think is lazy, like a lazy thought process.
It's just rude.
It's a lack of understanding, and there's been a lot of talk about. Again, like I know I've shown you the article from Ask a Game Dev, completely unbiased third party, has nothing to do with the situation whatsoever, has asked their opinion on it. They're like, here's my take on this, and everyone's like, well, I saw a YouTube video that said otherwise from someone that isn't a game dev and they played around in Blender, so I don't believe that. It's like, oh my god. No, come on. Okay, so one thing we have to focus on right now is where we're getting our information. And that is very important in this day and age. We are at a point where we went from, there was a lot of mainstream media was missing a lot of information because they have ties politically or whatever, or they're making money. And then the internet came along and this like independent news came along, and it was great, and it was telling us all the other side of everything. We had all this great information there, and then somewhere along the way people realized that they could misdirect. And well, I know you guys saw it in the States for your last election. It's very well known that there was a ton of misdirection to the point that it was hard to find out what the real information was. Canadian election was just today. There was a ton of misinformation thrown out about leaders, and allegations that came out of nowhere, had no base whatsoever, but people run with it, and it comes so close to the date that it's hard to make up for it. But there's a lot of lies going on out there, and I don't even want to say that people with the National Dex issue are doing this maliciously. I want to believe that they have the best of intentions, but they're presenting like they know how it all works, when it's like, you might have an idea, but until you work in that sort of environment, you really don't understand. And also, you're very tied to it and passionate. And when you're very tied to something and passionate, you can tend to lose the vision of what's actually going on. Whereas if someone is completely third party, that's a great spot to get at least base knowledge of information. Then you can start to form things. Which again, that Ask a Game Dev was so well written. It talked about the difference literally from, was it DS to 3DS to Switch, and the difference in the shading and all the work that has to be done, the normals, the texturing, everything. Like, there is a lot of extra work, and it's not small, and any one of those things can break at any given time. Like, this is a major thing, and we have to be careful as to where we're getting our information. Try to get from a more third party source. And then on top of that, the YouTubers, they made money off this. So if there's some out there, I'm not going to say specific ones or anything, but there's some out there that seem like it's like every day or week, it's like more outrage coming. And it's like, now it's just because outrage gets
there's
clicks.
one in particular that that basically, if you go to their channel, every single video they've made is a negative video about Pokemon. Every single one.
And it's hot. Like,
but here's the other thing though. When good news comes out, they don't talk about it.
No.
That's the thing. They claim to be a Pokemon fan, but when good news comes out, they don't talk about
it. At times, like, as much as that annoys me, I almost can't even like be mad at them, because you got to pay your bills too. Like, it's
okay to talk about these things. I just don't think it's okay to lie. It's not okay to lie. Don't lie. No. That's fine. You don't want to talk about something, talk about whatever you want, however much you want. Just don't lie. That lying is... Can we agree that lying is bad? Like, do we really have to have an argument about lying being okay?
I don't think so.
About facts. Lying about facts, like public facts. Do we have to debate that? If we don't, then I think we should all be on the same page. Which is
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a point where I believe, like, we had so much time on the internet where so many people were doing things just trying to find truth, and that's where a lot of like the independent news sources came from on the media, on the internet. And I feel like that's sort of going away a little bit, where again people are misdirecting, and then people can, like, as we found, people can, no matter what your opinion is, you can find a group of people on the internet that agree with you, and
see, that's an interesting thing. That's an interesting thing. So, like, I've seen people, like, I've watched YouTube channels where they're bringing up a topic, and they're like, hey, my last video on this topic got, like, 1 million views and 100,000 likes. Therefore, I'm right. That's not how it works. No matter how many people agree with you, that does not mean you are right, right? Great example. When this was science, Albert Einstein was not with the consensus of the scientific community for most of his life, right?
No.
Yet now, most of the things he talked about are universally held to be true, or a lot closer to the truth than what they thought back then, right? And he was always in the minority. So I'm just saying, like, just because a lot of people agree with you, that doesn't mean you're right. And also, even if a lot of people agree with you on a particular YouTube video, that doesn't mean that's the majority either. That's just the niche you're appealing to. So there's layers to this.
It's a loud niche, like, and they're consuming it. They're consuming the media quite a bit. It is frustrating when you try to enter a conversation and, like, you see part of the argument and you're like, whoa, let's just back that part up. I'll let you, like, whether you think Pokemon needs all the Pokemon or not to be a good game, I'm not going to argue that. That's your opinion. I won't argue that. But when you're saying it's just so easy to just take the models and plop them in, there's more to it than that. There's more things that have to be done. Again, there's a lot more than just the modeling work. And at any point in time, anything can break. So, and again, that article was so well done, like so detailed from generation to generation, to have people just be like, yeah, well, I don't believe it because so-and-so showed that you can just pull a model into Blender and it works fine.
Well, part of the problem is that a lot of people aren't trained in, like, knowing how to validate the information, right? Like, most people do not check the source for things, right? Like, oftentimes when I watch something, I try to see if there's a source for it, right? And I mean, sometimes, like, you know, I'll make a video and I won't put a source because what I'm talking about is just kind of like my opinion on a matter, right? Like, hey guys, this is something that's kind of commonly known. Like, for example, if I'm making a video where I'm literally just saying characters I want in Smash, not predictions, but just characters I want, like a wish list, then I'm not going to put a source for that unless I'm going to bring up, like, a particular reasoning. Like, oh, okay, this interview happened there. Then I'll provide a source for that. Like, if I'm going to, say something about, you know, something that actually happened in a professional sense, I'm going to provide a source for it. Or I'll try to, at least. Right? And if that's what I'll try to do. So my point is simply that if you see someone stating facts that you don't know about, you should probably look for the source. If they don't have a source, maybe even try and find the source. Because oftentimes, you know, there can be misinformation. Like, that happens a lot. Gotta be
There
careful.
can also be a misinterpretation
of the
where
information as well.
they present it, because again, we can't just come out and generally just read it all off, because then it's like essentially plagiarism.
Mhm.
So and in your interpretation, and again, if you do a video where you're just like, oh, I'm just gonna read this and then I'm gonna read that, it's like, that's not really you. So and you have to have things be you like yourself, your understanding of situations. So if you read it in a way, you interpret it in a way that is maybe a little bit off from the truth, people can still run with that. And it's just, that's why you need multiple sources on different sides and sort of try to, especially like if it's just something small, like someone's opinion, whatever. But if it's something that's going to blow up, like how Pokemon did, you got to try to find a couple sources. And people have told me, like, oh, there's lots of sources and all these game devs. Can you show me one? Because I have a really good one that's third party, has nothing to do with the situation, and it kind of makes things understandable. Do you have anything on the other end? And so far, I have not gotten anything back. Although I've been told it exists.
Well,
I've been told that multiple
one
exist,
example,
and I'm not going to call someone a liar about it. I'm not, but I would like to see actual proper.
well, there's
and
another
from someone that
example.
isn't making money from it.
There's another example of, there is this article that some people found that was it was an interview with Game Freak, and they talked about how they had two different teams, and the way it was written in the article, it made it seem like the team working on Town took priority over the team working on Pokemon Sword and Shield. But we know that to not be the case. Information's come out since then to completely disprove that, right?
The game's been out.
Right, the game is out. One, it's a digital title. But also, if you look at the history of Game Freak, they've always had a smaller team. That team has always worked on smaller projects. That's what they've always done. That same team they said was working on Town, the same team that worked on the Elephant game, right? Like, what is it? Like Tumbo the Badass Elephant or something like that?
Timbo the Badass Elephant.
Right, thank you. So just point is like, that team's always worked on smaller indie titles. And even recently, Toby Fox came out and said, hey, I worked with this team on Town, and it was a very, very small team.
They made
right?
Pocket Card Jockey too.
Okay.
And then we also learned that Game Freak with Pokemon Sword and Shield had over 1,000 people involved, as opposed to a handful for Town. So my point is, that article that led people to believe that Town was a priority over Sword and Shield, not even at all remotely true, but it was misinterpretation of information.
So I believe that what ended up happening is that they basically called them Team 1 and Team 2, and Team 1 was the one on Town, so everyone was like, that's the main team.
Yeah.
It's like, not necessarily. Like that's the problem with numbering or lettering teams.
Right.
But so for any of you that don't know, I have played Town. I've streamed Town.
Yeah, we haven't talked about your opinion on it. How do you feel about it?
It's slow.
Okay.
It is. I played an 1.5 hour long tutorial.
Oof.
The combat is absurdly slow. The town is small, like little town. It's small. You're not like, this is no, like it's small. The animations, I think there's like only 1 or 2 attack animations on your main character, so they didn't do a whole ton there.
Mm.
When I was playing it, one of the most common things is it looks like a Game Freak game. The grass looks like it was ripped out of Pokemon and put in the game. Right off the bat, you have your main character lives alone with her mom. Dad is gone, no clue where. It's like, oh, that's very Game Freak. Like it. I don't have a problem with the game. I like the game. It's a slow game. It's the combat is. I can see people having problems with it. I personally enjoy it. It is slow. I do like it. And mistakes can take a while. Like, that's the one thing I made a really kind of bonehead mistake in one of my fights, and it took me like another 6-7 rounds to come back around to be able to rectify the mistake. And it's a slow game. And like, okay, so in Canada, your $60 games are our $80 games. It's just the way the exchange rate works. I don't know how much Town is for you guys, but it was $30 for me. So it's less than a half price game. So that's less than a $30 game for you guys.
I think it was like 25.
And it is. But it's kind of charming. There was some care put in. Like they definitely cared about the game. They put effort into it. But
It
to
sounds
say
like
that
if it
this
just
is
had
what
some balancing done, it could be a much better game.
it really it's just pace. I think it's pace, and I think also for a small team, it was. I think this was part of the design. Again, I enjoy the combat. I don't have a problem with it, but battles take forever. They really do.
Well,
The whole
so,
thing
like,
is basically you
it's-
have isits and dasits. Isits are ideas, dasits are actions. You have to spend energy to turn an isit into a dasit, and then a dasit you can use. Shadow, no, it was I believe $31 or $32 after tax.
So it's percentage.
Something like
It's
that.
percentage based, not like literally add 20 to every game, but maybe add like 25%, something like that, right? Or
Right,
33% about.
It goes by common exchange rate, and it's just sort of
Okay.
It's 25.
Is exchange rate
I'm
in-
surprised it's only 31 there.
I can't even remember what year.
Yeah,
I can't remember what year the exchange rate was, but yeah, it'd probably be around $25 US.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it
25.
is.
So again, and I like the battle system itself. I like how poetic it is. Of you're going to take ideas and you're going to turn them into
Yeah, I've
actions.
seen
and
that,
then
I
you're gonna
really
use
like
the
that.
action. And I like the idea, but it takes a long time. And then after every
Yeah.
turn, you move, like you run back. So it's like you're fighting, and then you book it that way for however many your random number comes up, and then you fight there, and eventually you'll land in places with other townsfolk that will add their assistance in whatever way. And like it's good. I enjoy it, but this is not a full-priced game.
Right.
It's not even close. And to think that, let's put it this way, if this is the reason why Pokemon can't be better because they put everything they had into this game, then the National Dex people are 100% correct. Game Freak and Pokemon is in serious danger because there is no way that could be like half of Game Freak and all their money and efforts put into this. There's no way.
Yeah. Another issue is that because you're saying it's slow, I've heard that the RNG for it can be really brutal sometimes. So
Yeah.
if it's really brutal, you have a really long match, you lose, you gotta start all over again. That can get really repetitive, really annoying. So I can see how some people could play this game and get really frustrated and not want to finish it. So I mean,
That's
especially
exactly
if you're-
what I feel like would happen if I bought the game. So I'm not going to.
If you are not like an RPG enthusiast, I don't think I could suggest it to you.
I'm
to be
somewhat
honest.
I love
interested in it.
RPGs.
Like,
I just hate
I'm on the fence.
replaying sections of games over and over again.
Let's
I
put it this,
like-
if I spent $80 on this game, I would be angry.
Ooh,
I would feel cheated, but to spend like 30, I'm like, yeah, it. You know, if this was a good indie game that you spent, you know, I guess $25 US on, I would feel okay with it.
Like,
Now,
maybe I should
it's
get Hollow
coming from a
Knight
big
instead
studio,
of
but
Town. Like, if I'm gonna invest my money in a smaller game,
Yeah.
maybe I should get Hollow Knight
I
or
probably yeah.
Deltarune or something like that instead.
Hollow Knight's
I
pretty good.
wouldn't be surprised. But again, I wanted to look at this myself, and also this is part of Gear Project.
Mm-hmm.
So another thing people don't understand is this is actually making Pokemon better. So the entire point of this project is to give their development teams and people in their development teams something else to do that isn't Pokemon, so that they can try different ideas in a different game where it doesn't hurt Pokemon. It is also a big part of this is to be developing 3D assets for games that can go into their library that they can just pull into Pokemon later.
And actually, to your point, just about how Town can support future Pokemon games, we've seen evidence that Game Freak uses the games they're working on to build upon for future games. Look, we talked about Let's Go earlier, how they tried out several mechanics, and they saw those mechanics worked in Let's Go and how they were received. They fine-tuned them a little bit, and some of those mechanics are in Pokemon Sword and Shield, like the roaming Pokemon, like experience being gathered by your entire team equally, like the glowing yellow roaming Pokemon, right? Kind of like the red and blue glowing Pokemon in Let's Go. That's in Pokemon Sword and Shield, but for actually like valuable Pokemon with its stats. So I see what you're saying, and to that point, like of Game Freak releasing games, at least with the games that they make, they're efficient with it. Like they use it to build for the future for other games that they're working on.
Yeah.
So,
And
I appreciate that.
being able to do something else kind of like I think we all know when you do something for a long period of time, put a ton of time into it,
you need to mix it up.
You can get burnt out.
Yeah.
And if you've just been doing Pokemon for, say you've been there for 10, 15 years doing Pokemon games, it might be nice to do something else. You might not be like ready to be like, okay, I need a different studio. I need out of here.
Can you imagine
you
a day where
be
Game Freak
so proud
we're not
of what you've done,
Mhm.
but not like, so you don't want to leave Pokemon. You just want to spend a little bit of time not thinking about it for once. Maybe go and enjoy playing the game.
Think about this for a second.
And not worry about it.
So imagine a day where Game Freak, not only do they make a AAA game, but it's not a Pokemon game. Like, what if they just made like a complete, not a small title, like a full-on $60 major release for the year kind of game. Like, I don't even know what they would do, you know? But it would be interesting to see, because I mean they have good ideas, right? And I think, you know, just for example, Town's a good idea, but it didn't have the weight behind it plus the polish to really make it a great game, right? And
so far from what I've seen of it, there's no, I haven't run across any bugs or major issues. Like yes, it's a smaller game, but Game Freak has not given us a buggy, broken experience yet, to my knowledge. I've never played a Game Freak game, a Pokemon game that is broken. Now I've seen bugs, of course. We all know missing number and things like that, but I've never seen a broken mess of a game like we have in others. You know, and like other studios have.
And I just was walking by this town, and I'm walking by these rocks, and I'm like, wait, I can see something on the other side of the rock. I realized that the rock was lifted from the ground, and you could just see straight through it to the other side, like you could see inside the texture of the rock. And then I walked to the next rock, and it was the same thing. I was like, really? Like, this is still a thing? Like, this is Skyrim on the Switch, right? So this is like the remastered late port version. Right, it's one of the most recent versions of Skyrim that's been redone multiple times, years after, and there's still. This is the beginning, near the beginning of the game. Like, this is one of the first major town you go to, right? Like yeah, one of the first major towns you go to, right? Just kind of set everything else into motion. Right there are these boulders that just have these gaps under it. I'm just like, okay, why? Like, come on.
I mean, I love Elder Scrolls and I love Skyrim, but that game is buggy as hell.
It's funny.
How do they have realistic physics at all?
I don't.
Because a physics engine can do some crazy things sometimes. Like they talked about a lot in Breath of the Wild.
No, there's not really like
tweak something and break the rest of the game. They tweak something to fix like this part, and then the rest of the game would just break.
I'm just talking about straight up geometry that's not interacted with at all. Yeah. That's just misplaced.
I remember I was playing Gears of War, and I was seeing like you're pushing a car and using it for cover, and then there was an explosion. Suddenly the car is just floating in air like end over end. I'm like, well, this is
Fortnite.
Unfortunate, rather dangerous.
Playing Fortnite yesterday, and I landed. Someone else landed next to me. Except when you play Fortnite, like when you fall through the air, you're like flying, right? The flying animation was still stuck on the person, and they were zooming across the floor, flying, and they went straight through a wall. And I was like they got stuck on the wall, and then eventually they got through the wall. And I was just like, what happened? Like, I never saw the person again. Like, I don't know if it was a bot or it was a real person. I just never faced them again. It was weird. So, yeah, glitches happen, man. But go on.
But again, I haven't seen a lot out of Game Freak. They've actually, and people like, they have all these problems and
Blue Aladita.
You know, people keep like, they keep giving us these garbage games, and it's like, well, you know, looking at what like games that can literally come out and not work unless you get the day one patch kind of thing, or like there's
a lot of games need day one patches. It's just a different standard now. People are like, I think because people realize that developers realize they can update a game after it comes out, they're less likely to have it fully ready by the time it comes out, which is unfortunate, you know.
Again, you go through that Ask a Game Dev post, and someone brought that up, and the response was, well, games, like, yes, you didn't have that in games earlier on because you didn't have the option, but that didn't mean that you got more stuff. They just, all that stuff that they're adding post game to that first day patch got cut. All of it cut. It's not ready to go, cut. It
Or the
doesn't
game
exist.
got delayed.
Either delayed or it was gone.
Yeah.
You didn't get that, so it's like you are actually getting more now because of it.
Okay, that makes
even
sense.
though you need that first day patch.
That makes sense.
And it's, again, like, these companies aren't being malicious. They are trying to put forward a good product. They're not trying to sneak our money away from us for the most part.
So just to kind of like
console, anyways, not
just
like
to see if I
software.
understand correctly. So you're saying that from what we've heard from some developers, right? When a game has like a day one patch, it's because they were trying everything they could to get as much content they could into the game by the deadline. So sometimes because of that, they'll have to do a day one patch to make sure everything's running right afterwards.
That's common. Now, I'm sure there's other times where they're just trying to save face and save the company, and it's the publisher's like, nope, no time, it's going now, and they're like, okay, we'll send it now. And guys, I know we're in crunch time, but super crunch time, because if this day one patch doesn't work, we're done. You know, like that could, something like that, depending on how big the project is, how much money was spent, what studio it is, that could end a studio. Everyone, no jobs.
It's nuts.
So I can see it, and it does make sense, and I'm a little bit, I still don't like the practice, but I can at least appreciate it a little bit more now.
Yeah.
And again, that was everyone brought up. I don't think people talk about it anymore because it turned out to not be a big deal. But when Breath of the Wild was coming out, they mentioned a day one patch, and people freaked.
I remember that.
And
I don't
it was the
remember
tiniest-
this. I remember it, but
patch.
it wasn't a big deal.
Do you remember what it was for that tiny little patch?
Was it for the shirt?
No. It was for the title screen, to change it from what was there originally to include purchasing the season pass.
Oh.
So they just changed the title screen.
Honestly,
And
that
had a
game
link
was
to the
not
eShop.
done when the Switch version of that game was not done when it launched. Not done for months. They had so many performance patches after that. That really,
But the
I
game
never
still
really
ran
never
fine to me
ran
when I
perfectly.
got Breath of the Wild on the Switch. I mean,
It
sure, the Quiet
ran
Forest
fine.
wasn't perfect, but like,
My only one, like, again, I will accept some stutters because this is what happens with technology. It's going to happen.
I mean, just look at N64 games, dude.
Oh, geez.
Come on. Yeah,
But,
like,
you know, I think one of the big ones is that right off the bat, everyone in the first like 10 minutes would see a big frame drop because there's one patch
even
of
on the
grass that was
Great
notorious
Plateau,
for it.
There was a lot of frame drops right outside the cave.
I never noticed it, but there was one patch of grass, everyone that ran in, and so many people did, and they got a frame drop, and it's like that's a bad start for a game. So you're going to be more aware of things. I never ran through that patch of grass for some odd reason, and so I never saw that, and so it was a while before I started noticing any serious, like, there's like little hiccups of
There's
drop
like
frame here and there.
10
I'm not going to complain.
spots on the Great Plateau that were bad. The initial rundown to the old man ran terribly. The forest right into the front when you first come out of the cave and drop right into that forest ran horribly. It still runs kind of iffy sometimes. And then there's a field where actually a Lionel spawns now if you play on hero mode on just that Lionel
awesome.
that you got. Yeah, that place ran horribly too, but it runs way better now. And my point is, like, there's a ton of, like, that game was not optimized for Switch as much as it could have been. Like, it dropped literally the exact same places as the Wii U did in the exact same ways.
and despite all those frame rate drops, it didn't bother me at all.
No, I had one major frame rate drop that I like, 'cause I don't really notice a ton of frame rate drops. I'm not one to make a big deal or need something glued as long as it runs fairly well. One, I was fighting on the side of a hill during a thunder and lightning storm, and there was skeletons at night plus other monsters, and the lightning was coming down hitting them, and I had like a little freeze up, and I was like, yep, that's there's a lot going on here.
Yeah, every once in a while, if you're going like really fast through the map, the whole game will like freeze
You guys
and
remember
then load and then keep going.
in the Wind
It's
Waker,
weird.
when in the Wind Waker they had like intentional frame drops. When you would hit the enemy, the game would slow down, but it offered like a dramatic effect.
Yeah.
I would be interested to look into how exactly that worked out, because I thought that was really cool. I thought that was a really cool effect. I don't know if they just did that because it. I know they did it because it was an effect, but I wonder if like it was also like kind of like a smart way to get around some potential drops.
I love hearing stuff like that.
I'm not sure.
Like getting around, like arms. When you throw out the arms, it eats a lot of lag in that while they're traveling. Things like that I find so interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, have you ever like been like playing a game that's open, but you sort of like quickly get into an area that you're not supposed to yet, and you just see it still loading? Like in Breath of the Wild, actually, if you know how you can figure out ways to like launch yourself like miles, like really quick, right? Sometimes when you do that, if you do it too quickly, you stop midair as the game's like loading, right? It's kind of
the game
nuts.
will do that normally, even if you're just traveling. Sometimes I've noticed.
Well, that's
I never
like,
really had. I
whoa,
never saw
no
any issues.
way, no, Brandon, that has never happened to me. Like me just like getting on the glider and like launching off Death Mountain and traveling for like minutes. That has never happened where the game would stop.
Yeah,
No, like,
the game will do that. I've noticed more near Mount
your game is
Everest
broken.
for some reason. Nah, dude, it happens.
You should get your
to-
checks. I
Yeah,
think you
like-
should get your Switch serviced.
Yeah.
No, I
I
never
mean,
really
if you
noticed
mean
any
like a
issues.
frame
Maybe
drop,
it was-
okay, but like stopping?
No. The games will stop and it will say loading, and then it'll keep going.
That's never happened to me.
I've never had that.
No,
Yeah, I've
not
had
going
it
at a
happen.
normal pace, like anything intended. No.
It happens.
Not
Yours
that
is
I've
broken.
seen any. Like again, but
But there's so much that
I've
can
seen
happen.
One where it stopped. It stopped once, and that was during that one fight on the hill. And I haven't even seen it really chug, even when I can't remember who the YouTuber was that hit the ceiling, the game ceiling, and then just glided around the map.
Yeah, you can do that. And
afterwards.
the game's fine. Like it's so crazy how like they allowed you that much vertical space. Like
But
they
the game
allowed
has
you
a
to go that
very
high up.
The game has a lot of LOD, so it will like level of detail settings are very high. So basically, things in the distance are like flat images. Like you'll notice it if you look like bokoblin camps and stuff real far away, and it's like, what is this? The N64? Like it's
Interesting.
bad.
But again, I find that stuff really interesting because that gets around draw distance.
Right. Well, I don't even
And
think it's as much as the intended for the Switch. I think it's just because the Wii U had like no RAM. So the draw distance are terrible in that
I'm really looking
console.
forward to see how Breath of the Wild 2 is going to look on the Switch. It's going to be so different, especially if they also design it with a Switch Pro in mind, taking it to a whole other level. Oh, that's going to be really cool.
Goodness.
I'm going to get to the chat. We haven't been to it in a while. So I'm not accused of ignoring the chat. Let's see here. Terry Sivertson, I think that after the Fires Pass, we get 10 additional DLC fighters that are sold as individual packs. Ooh, well, that's a lot, but individual packs is an interesting idea. And 10 is not out of the question either, so I'm not saying that. That's just, I'm not expecting 10, but that would be awesome. Brandon Stallion, just imagine how insane of a reveal Master Chief would be. He would be revealed at E3 2020. He would be revealed at the end of the E3 Direct like Banjo was in 2019. And yeah, it would be crazy. I'm not going to expect that at all, but that would be, my mind would be blown. Absolutely blown. Terry, I think
I'd be
Gino will be a
hyped.
DLC fighter with
So
2 music tracks on the stage. I think that's a very reasonable prediction if Gino comes in. 2 music tracks with a stage. This Square music, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Griefing Golem. Sakurai started off by saying he isn't too fond of the Fighters Pass idea, so I really feel like he is going to give something to people to throw them a bone for trusting in it. Okay. If we get Gino for free, I'm not complaining at all, dude. I've been wanting Gino for years. Little Squirt. I'm killing these essays. Oh, yeah. You writing essays while listening to us. That's actually a pretty awesome compliment. We help the brain. Shadow of Nexus. If they ever brought Smash Bros. Melee HD or a port to Switch, they would sell so many Switches, especially the competitive Melee community would be grateful because it's all under one system. Computer Robots actually responded to that. Oh, no. Grief and Golem responded saying a port of Melee would be so dumb. Why would you ever do that when they have Ultimate? So like, I don't think it's dumb, but I do feel like Ultimate kind of has like aspects of Melee because it kind of like remade a lot of Melee stages. But if they offered like an up-res Melee like a couple years from now, like with online features, like it's just like an expand. Like for example, like we have Nintendo and Super Nintendo games with online gameplay that are in HD. That like if they extend that to GameCube and that's how you got like a Melee thing, people might be really excited about that actually. So I mean,
if they had a 1080p version of Smash C4, literally it could be the exact same game in 1080p. I'd buy it.
See, I don't know. It's one of those things. Would they, because like Splatoon still sells and sells well. I would imagine Smash would be selling well for a few years. Would they really bring out another game? Like again, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe selling really well.
I don't see like a
Mario Kart
retail
9
release
coming. Like I feel like that would maybe, but that would have to be way down the road.
Yeah. For if there were ever a Melee HD, like I said, I think it would be like with a super like the Nintendo Online sort of thing.
Oh yeah, they could do that.
That's what I meant. Like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Because all the GameCube games on Nintendo Online would be up-res to 1080p, right? And Nintendo Online games have online play, so you would have an HD Melee with online play.
As long as the emulator worked right.
Yeah.
I think it would.
But let's just say it does. That would be something that I could turn around and say, like when people are like, oh, what do you think about the Nintendo Switch Online? It's like, yeah, they actually have something people want now.
Right.
Finally.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
though,
upset.
no triggers.
Literally, I will continually be upset until they actually fix the online. Like, I don't care how many free games you give me. It doesn't excuse the fact that the online is garbage. Like, my actual online experience when I go to play Smash Online is trash. It's not good. Like, I'm not happy.
I feel like that's got to be a netcode issue.
It's because they don't use servers. It's all peer-to-peer.
Oh.
Right, so
Yeah.
if someone doesn't have a good internet connection, you're screwed.
Yeah.
That's the one thing. People are like, oh, Splatoon's going to get servers after this. I'm like, let's see if they say anything when they launch Smash. Oh, they didn't say anything? Splatoon's never getting servers. If Smash doesn't get servers, if Mario Kart doesn't get servers, no one is.
Splatoon's
No
not
one.
even as bad because
Well, I feel like
at
Splatoon-
least that game doesn't like tank the frame rate. It doesn't
No,
like
yeah, it just
stutter
has
like Smash
absurd-
does. Because
Well,
Smash is all
It
about
has
like
teleporting.
yeah.
Right, but at least with Splatoon and
it's
Mario
not
Kart,
usually that bad.
you still play the game. With Smash, sometimes you're just stuck there or watching it in slow motion. Right?
Yeah,
It's
that's
Or
one
you're
thing.
just playing
Yeah.
it, but it's like terrible experience. Like Splatoon, you don't need it to be every character exactly like.
What it causes
the
is
exact
sometimes
position they
annoyance
are.
when
Right.
you do sometimes lose a fight because of that. Right? Or
But
with
in
Mario Kart, you
Smash,
lose a
it's
race
like-
because you thought you were in first place, but actually the person was just lagging and they're actually in first. That bothers me, but
That's
that's not
terrible.
I
nearly
never
as
had that
bad
happen. It's
as
never
not being
that
able to
bad.
play a fight in
Now,
Smash.
I did have one. I played last night. Bomb went off under someone, and then they disappeared. And I was like, and then they killed me from behind. And that wasn't like we weren't really close. Like I was keeping distance on that one. They were behind me, killing me. And I'm like,
You know, it'd be funny.
It was enough that people in chat were like, wow, check out the leg on that. It's like, oof.
The lag is
It would be
so-
funny if Google Stadia was like, Google came out and said, "Hey, so we're gonna do peer-to-peer."
No,
That'd be
can't.
so
Well,
ironic.
the thing is, the nice thing about with Stadia, as much as I have an issue with it, at least when they're doing online amongst Stadia,
You gotta
that's-
imagine having an advantage
can-
with that.
that can essentially be local. Because if everything's playing on the server, that's essentially local. So that's like playing like
Well, I
your
mean-
the stream might have lag, but the actual room itself is basically like a big LAN party.
Well,
And so there's a little bit of an advantage there. It's kind of nice, but I still don't think it makes up for
Well-
the latency and other issues that are gonna arise in it.
So like, I have really good internet, right? But when I play Fortnite, so on PS4, there are servers, right? Or no? There's gotta be. There's 100 people.
For Fortnite?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There has to be.
It all depends on the game.
Okay, but for Fortnite,
has
yes, right?
servers, Yes.
I have a hard time believing that it'd be peer-to-peer with 100 people in a match.
No. Fortnite's actual servers.
Okay, so, all right. So now that I've understood that, I have I've talked about. I have I have a gigahertz of speed for my internet, right? Is that correct? I think
You
one
have
point
gigabit.
gigabit. Okay, a gigabit. I think I've said like gigahertz or terabyte before. Like I confuse all those terminologies. So
Not the same.
I have gigabit speed. I know it's the 1,000, right? We have a gigabit speed here, right? Granted, you don't get all of that, but still, I get like 40-50% of that when I do a speed test, right? That's like hundreds times more. Okay, that's like that is more. That's like 20-30 times more speed than I need to play Fortnite, right? Like it's so much more
It's a
speed than I need.
ridiculous amount of speed.
Right.
The thing is that it doesn't matter about the speed. Most people's like it's rare to have an internet that isn't fast enough in that regard, like doesn't have enough bandwidth in that regard.
Yeah.
It comes down to your ping, which is the time it takes for you to communicate with the server and it to communicate back to you.
Okay.
So that's what really matters, because other than that, the games actually don't
So what do you do?
require a ton of bandwidth.
What do you do about that to make sure that's consistent?
You gotta work that in your netcode. To my understanding, that's all something like some netcodes are better than others, and some people are really good with that stuff.
It sounds like something that
My
you
ping
should
is
not
almost
expect
ridiculously
a casual person who just wants to use Google Stadia for. Like that's the point I'm getting at, though. Like, if you're someone who pays for really good internet, there are still gonna be times when it just doesn't work, right?
The thing is, they don't advertise. Internet service providers do not advertise the stat that you need. So if think about it. So essentially, you are streaming say you're playing a 1080p game.
Yeah.
You are basically can you essentially stream a 1080p image? Yeah, we do it all the time.
Yeah.
But the latency and the lag is going to be your ping, the communication between the two. They do have some things that they have ways that they're cutting out some of the latency, like the controller connecting directly to the internet, so it doesn't have to go through whatever you're playing it on to access to the internet. It connects directly to cut out as much latency as possible. Again, I find that stuff kind of cool.
Yeah, so it's like you're playing the game on a computer that's miles away, and you're just seeing the feed.
Yeah, pretty much. And that's like
You're essentially watching a live stream of
you playing.
Yeah.
pretty much. Pretty much. And then on top of that, like it's apparently they have some technology that's going to be anticipating your actions and putting them in to cut out lag. So in other words, the game's gonna play a little bit for
It's like
you.
the opposite. It's like the opposite of Mario Kart. Like where
I've heard that a lot of games already use this, and it's not really a new feature. But I don't know which games. I just know that there's a lot of games that already use that.
No. It's different. Well, I don't know about which games, but so the difference is that with Mario Kart, it uses like it predicts what your opponents will do, so you can see what they do, even if they have lag, right? But it eventually will correct itself, right? But what this is it's predicting what you will do, which is it's not what your opponents, it's what you will do. So it literally will change your decisions if it predicts incorrectly sometimes, right?
Yeah. So I'm not sure how that's.
I think it would correct itself if you did something different.
I think what's going to end up happening though is it's not obvious. You don't want it to teleport back to what you did, so you don't want that frame skip. But I feel like what's going to come down to is that in order to make that smooth, it's almost going to feel a little unresponsive. Like it's supposed to be really responsive, but unless it predicts you properly, it's going to feel very unresponsive.
Right. I mean, if it predicts you incorrectly, which is bound to happen because we're not 100% predictable.
Well, look at again, Splatoon. Someone's up top, they're running, and just because their internet, some of the packets didn't get delivered, whatever, it let's call it glitched a little bit. They dropped down. I shot them the whole way down. They didn't die because they were still up top. It just
Deep sadness.
You are moving. They are moving forward. And then for whatever reason, the communication wasn't happening with the internet. So the game went, they're moving forward, so they're still moving forward. They moved forward and dropped, but they didn't in reality, so that when it came back to, they essentially teleported back to where they were supposed to be. Mm-hmm. And this is common for online games.
Right.
Yeah, so we'll see how Google Stadia turns out, but let's continue on with the chat here. We still have one more topic, by the way, guys. This one will probably be quicker, though. Maybe. Brandon Stallion, hey Andres, do you think we'll end up getting Sora as the 4th or 5th DLC fighter? The Fighters Pass 2, do you think it's possible? I think it's possible. Yeah. I think Sora's possible, but, you know, possible.
I don't think he's happening, but I think it's possible.
Yeah.
Everything's possible at this point.
Sabbath, I don't know if you noticed because you weren't here earlier. Everyone was asking about you in the chat, so you're...
Sabbath, you're the most popular person here. You're more popular than us.
Just McGee, I'm not sure I've gone to say hello to you, but hello to you, sir. Yeah, I see. So when we were talking about like information, right, and how it's perceived, like misinformation, people were like really like feeling us being really philosophical there. Yeah. Computer robots, please Nintendo, let us have a Nintendo Direct in November. For example, low score. I appreciate you guys' open-mindedness in every topic. I try my best. I think we're all biased, and it's impossible to eliminate all of your bias. But I at least try to check myself, right? Like, I am a hardcore fanboy for Nintendo. I naturally will like Nintendo things more than anything else. I just will. I am biased. But I try to check myself. I try to consider, you know, the different possibilities. I try to question things that I might not do, you know, and I try to be fair. I try to look at information, but it's never perfect. But I appreciate that you appreciate our open-mindedness.
You'll also let people know when it's like, yeah, no, I am biased, but here goes anyways. So
Right.
I feel like that excuses a lot of things where it's like, just so you know, I am biased, rather than being like, this is a fact. It's like, no, well, I am a little bit biased, but here's my opinion anyways, for what it's worth. It changes the way the information is
Right.
presented.
That's more sincere, so people have a better understanding of what they're actually being told. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So moving on with the chat. I want to get to the chat. I want to get to the things that were asked, and then we'll move on to the final topic. Terry, it could be possible that we get a mini direct if we don't get a full direct. So, like, I'm not saying I don't disagree. I'm saying I don't know. Because I personally don't feel like we need a Nintendo Direct until January, right? Because I feel like most of the games are already set in stone, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's some smaller third-party stuff that could still be announced. Is there a December game? Do we ever get a December game from Nintendo?
I don't think we have a Nintendo published one.
No. And I guess it doesn't have to be.
Third parties and indies to kind of take.
Because Town actually, you know, it came out just not too long ago. Or we're also getting Ring Fit Adventure. We got Ring Fit Adventure. I want to get that. Ring Fit Adventure looks really good.
Oh, I want to play that. I just don't know if I have
I want it. I think that could be like a really good way to like help burn
and
some
I was
calories.
like,
$80, right? American dollars. Probably like 120.
Yeah, I believe it's 100.
100 for
I
you
believe
guys.
it's 100 Canadian.
Okay. I don't know why I said 120, but I knew it was about 100. Computer robots. Okay, so for the amiibos that are coming out in November, who do you think will be rare, uncommon, or common? The candidates are Crom, Simon, and Incineroar.
I feel like Nintendo's been doing a pretty good job of making sure that most of the amiibos don't get.
Well, I'll tell you this:
ridiculously
Simon, I think,
rare.
is going to be the most sought after. Yeah, that's the Castlevania
Probably.
character. Crom's an echo of an old Fire Emblem character. Incineroar is one of many Pokemon. Not that either of those characters aren't cool. Okay, I like both of them, but Simon is dope as hell. His design is super epic, and people are really excited to see Castlevania fighting Smash Brothers. So.
Yeah.
Jugs
But I
and
don't know
Gee.
if any of them will be like super rare because I feel like Nintendo's been making enough amiibos and there's less hype around amiibos lately. So I haven't had any trouble getting the ones that
I personally
haven't
don't buy
wanted
that
a
many
bunch.
amiibos, so I can't really.
Yeah.
How many amiibo do you still buy amiibo regularly?
I bought a few Smash ones and I bought that one.
Bowser?
No.
Oh, you're trying to put
Link.
your finger on it. Oh,
That one.
Link
Right there.
from Link's Awakening. Yeah, that's pretty recent.
I bought Wolf and
Ridley, I see
too.
KK Rule down there as well, actually. Yeah, you
Yep.
do have some recent ones.
I
Okay.
have some recent ones.
I really wanted to get the Ridley one, but I decided not to. I just felt like there was no need for me to get it. Like, it just didn't feel worth it for me.
He's awesome.
He looks super cool, though. Maybe I'll go and get more amiibos later on. once I settled in with my new job.
They're very reasonably priced for considering, the other prices of other, collectible figurines. They're very cheap.
Yeah.
Well, provided it's still in circulation.
Right.
There's so
Some
many
of those
amiibos that
get-
have been made. I wish they had like Nintendo had a website where you could just order any single one to just be made, like made to order. I wonder if it's easy for them to do that. It might be hard just for them to have the materials ready to do that.
I think it would be expensive for them to do that. It would be much more expensive.
Maybe
Probably
they have a higher
3 times
price to make up for that. Maybe.
Okay, so just going back real quick, December 2019, this article is from September 12th. The big game in December was Assassin's Creed: The Rebel Collection on December 6th.
Yep, there is.
That's a third-party game.
Yeah, there's no first party. November obviously is Pokemon. What was October's Luigi's Mansion?
Right. Yeah, well, October is Luigi's Mansion Town and Ring Fit Adventure. All Nintendo published products. But yeah, Luigi's Mansion's the big one, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So back to what I was answering Jax McGee's comment. Now watch someone call you guys out for being Pokemon fanboys even when there's evidence that counters their arguments. So,
Somebody calls me out as
Yeah.
a Pokemon fanboy. You're just literally wrong. I've never even beaten a mainline game.
Like on Twitter, I noticed some people were not happy because I was talking about how, hey, guess what, guys? Positive previews are coming out for Pokemon, and I was like, I'm surprised. Not really, right? Because my point is that like I was alluding to the point that there's a lot of misinformation about this game, right? And evidence has been provided for that, extensive evidence, but oftentimes they obtain a belief for something and they just want to believe that. And there's a fact somewhere, and I don't know the exact number or the quote, and I'm totally butchering it, but I've heard something along the lines that people in like 85-90% of people, that number is probably off by a little, but just, somewhere around there, people tend to believe what they want, not what is actually true. Like, people are looking for validation of their beliefs, they're not looking to change their mind, right? Mm-hmm. So when you have that, when majority of people are looking to validate their beliefs as opposed to changing their mind, what happens is that when facts are provided that would change their opinion on something, they often ignore it because they rather just believe what they previously believed because they want to be validated. That's kind of just like
angry.
Right, well, it's human nature, right?
In a nutshell.
That is just how most people are in general. And I mean, we're all like that to an extent, right? Like when we see something that goes against what we want to believe, there is like at least some like internal battle. Like when I see something like, wait, is that really true? Oh no, in my head, right? Like, and I think about it for like, okay, all right, this is reality. This is what you need to believe because that's what the evidence suggests. Okay. Right, but
sometimes some people still they know they'll have all the evidence, and it's just and they'll even accept it for the time being, but they'll still look for evidence elsewhere, and you see that all the time.
Well, looking for evidence isn't wrong. It's just, is that evidence valid?
Yeah.
Right. If you
One that I saw again with Pokemon that I thought that was really interesting. I was one of the YouTube channels that had that hour-and-a-half long early playthrough. One of them was talking about it with another 10-minute video afterwards, and one thing that they'd mentioned that I thought was really interesting, actually two things that came up that were really interesting. One, first of all, is they said that they have written in the past about being in favor of the National Dex movement, and they said the moment they started playing, everything felt just fine, and like the world was so well done that they didn't care anymore. There was so many Pokemon, they didn't care. It didn't matter. It didn't feel like things were left out. The other one that was really funny to bring up, and they showed it on screen, were other games that had trees that were not of great quality. One of which being Dragon Quest XI, which this game is often put up against.
Yeah.
Of artistic design. where the trees looked like they look actually the tree they showed in that one from Dragon Quest 11 was very similar, and they're like, but people didn't care about that. It's like, yeah, people need to
I mean,
just
sometimes
kind of calm down a bit.
just, when you got an opinion, you kind of see things under that sort of perspective. Like, I remember the Grinch leak, dude. If there was one thing I'm ever sad about being wrong about, it's that.
Yeah.
Man, that was rough. That was rough. I mean, like, I was never like 100%, but I was like on the hype train. I was like, okay, I think this might be real, right? But there's too much confirmation bias. Like, there was a lot of stuff because I wanted it to be real. I saw evidence that supported it, but I didn't consider the evidence that would go against it. So, not as well. I think I learned a lesson then, though. I'd like to think.
Yeah,
That's the important part.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if it's the start of a lesson, at least it's something.
Yeah. At least the pain of buying into something like that and then realizing, oh, it's not true. Like, what was crazy is that moment, like, so when I remember watching the Smash Direct and they revealed Incineroar and Ken, I'm like, oh crap. I can't believe it. The Grinch League was wrong. I can't believe it. But the truth was, going into, I was kind of expecting that too. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not right about that. It is too much.
There's too much to hope for, I think.
Yeah, it's too much, it's too quickly. Yeah, but, when you're in the moment. Shadow of Nexus. I don't know if you know about On Live, but that was pretty much a Stadia like 10 years earlier, and I thought it worked great back then. It should just be up from there, right? Who was behind On Live?
I forget.
I don't know, but I mean, it's not relevant now, so yeah.
On Live is not.
Oh, it is relevant now because that's who Sony has acquired.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I've never tried On Live, but from what I've heard, like the technical stats and things about how input lag is on it, it's not good.
Yeah.
See, the thing is, depending on how close you are to the servers, changes things. Depending on your ISP, changes things. Not everyone has good internet with a decent ping. Some people are really far away. Just to put in perspective how much of a change it is. So Final Fantasy XI was running off of servers in Japan. You would have these notorious monsters, which were special named spawns of common monsters. They'd be larger, have named special drops, yada yada, worth tons of money. Obviously, in an MMO, that's a big deal. You'd have people fighting over them, yada yada. Anyways, you're trying to get a claim of something that's popping up. You have a window; it can pop up at any time in the next hour. And the thing is, it was very difficult because the people in Japan would actually have it on screen for, I want to say it was like a quarter second to a half second longer, like before it would reach North America, just due to ping. Just like that's just how latency is. So depending on where you are to the servers, and again, depending on how good your internet is, that as far as it goes with latency, like with the ping and with latency, because that changes like so much. And again, it's not advertised because no one cares, because like the masses are looking at like Netflix. Can you stream Netflix without problems? Well, if the ping sucks on Netflix, does it really matter if your video is delayed 10 seconds on Netflix? No, as long as it just keeps coming. It doesn't matter if it. Oh, you'd never even know. You'd be like, oh, that was slow. No, that's your latency suck. But if you try to play a game like that, that's unplayable.
Yeah, that's the problem. Well, I don't know exactly. I think like it's just kind of one of those things where I feel like no matter what with Stadia, right? At least with Stadia, I have really good internet. A lot of people have really good internet, and we still run into issues. Not all of us are tech heads that can resolve every possible issue. I have trouble for it being a mainstream thing because I know for a fact people are gonna have times where it's gonna lag, and when literally you need your internet connection to be able to play the game, that's gonna suck. It's just like that. There's no way I can see Google Stadia being like a primary platform for a typical gamer, you know?
Yeah.
Not now.
Not now.
I can see it in like 10 years from now. Yeah, no problem. And maybe even sooner. But let's put it this way. How many of us still hang on to our physical media, our physical games? We want to buy a Nintendo Switch cartridge and put it in the system. People are slow to move over to even buying digitally. So to go even further to like not like Stadia spending full price on a game that they could just shut down tomorrow and you get nothing back is
Yeah.
And with Google's history
Yeah,
of shutting
I thought
down things that
about
don't
I
take
thought
off.
about selling my Wii U because I don't use it that much. But at the same time, like I realized, wait a second, if I sell it, I'll get like $32. Nothing. And
Sold my Wii U for like in the games for like $400.
not at GameStop, I'm assuming.
No, it was at GameStop.
Oh, they've
Yeah.
well, a lot has changed since then. But here's the other issue: not only would I not be getting the amount of money I put into the Wii U, but there's a lot of digital games I bought on my Wii U. If I sell it, it's just all gone forever. There's no getting that back. That's
Yeah,
just...
So Shadow just said the servers were less than 100 kilometers away from me. So yeah, it's a very short amount of distance. So your experience would be very, very different from my experience with
way
it.
better than everybody else.
So and yeah, but like stuff like that, like it works really well. Like we never thought Netflix would be anything streaming video, or you can like.
I remember when I first saw
you have
Netflix,
the
it just
bandwidth
seemed
for
so.
that,
It
the
seemed-
cost.
Using Netflix because the
Do you remember when Netflix was like first like starting? Like it just seemed lame as hell. Like I remember I was at my friend's place and we were like, "Oh, let's watch Netflix." I'm like, "What's this Netflix?" And they just put it on. We were just there chilling while it was loading. Or I don't even remember it ever starting up. Like I wasn't there long enough for it to start up, and I was just okay. This is lame as hell. Like, and at the beginning, the library was pretty lame too, you know. So actually, even now, whenever I go to watch Netflix, you know what pisses me off about Netflix? Right, this is kind of going away from like internet connection, things like that. But
Yeah.
they always like have like the second and third movie of a trilogy, but never the first one. Why? Why?
You know what pisses me off about Netflix more is when I have like really fast internet, but it loads at like 720p, and I'm paying for the 4K version. And it's like, come on, I have internet for this. Just take 5 seconds to load a little bit more before sending it to me. I don't care. I won't be upset.
If it's 5 seconds,
Let me select. Let me click that gear icon like I have on YouTube.
Yeah.
Select the resolution I want, and then wait as long as it takes me. Because
So,
I'll wait. I'll
with
wait.
Verve, I don't know if it's just some weird glitch on my system or something. Whenever I use Verve, that's like, it's basically Crunchyroll but with extra stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I try to watch something, everything starts off like at 240p for like first 10-15 seconds. and then it
Crunchyroll
jumps to
does
HD.
that for me.
I hate
A lot
that.
of things do that for me.
I'd
It's just that
rather
they
wait
wanna
10
load
seconds.
faster,
I'd
right?
rather wait
Yeah.
10 seconds. Like, I'd rather wait 10 seconds.
Twitter does that. Oh, Twitter will not load anything in HD for me. It's pissed me off.
Yeah.
I hate
Lame.
Computer Bots says he respectfully disagrees with me because I've seen people's explanation, YouTube videos, and game sites. They prefer physical games over digital games because they love the ownership of the game. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm saying that for the masses, like there are people that are always going to love the physical media. There are people that still love records and collect records. I have friends that collect records. My thing is that Spotify is an awesome deal and you can take that anywhere. Netflix, again, pretty good deal. You can take that anywhere. When game streaming, like it's going to take a while to take off, but
But
companies
the
want
convenience
this.
of it is just so great. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I like having, like, as a gamer, like, as a fanboy, I like having physical stuff for my games. But, I mean, I bought Smash digitally, I bought Pokemon Let's Go digitally, I bought Fire Emblem digitally, and it would have been nice to have the cartridges, but I really don't look at them that much, and I kind of prefer just being able to access everything instantaneously on my system. It's just convenient.
When I got the Switch, I wanted everything physical, and then I think I ended up I didn't want to go someplace, like it was really bad weather out, so I bought a game digitally. It was an online game, and then it was like just the whole idea of being able to just switch to it whenever, and then I would play it more. Whereas like, so now it's like a lot of the times, basically, if it's a single player game, like if Town was a physical release, I would have bought that physically, because I pop it in the Switch, I play it once, I put it on the shelf. So a lot of my digital games are going to be either games that I can't get physically or multiplayer games, because really at the end of the day, yes, it's nice that I own Splatoon 2, but in 10 years when you can't access the service and there's no one there, what am I going to play it for? Like the Octo expansion isn't that good to go back through like 10 years from now. The single player in Splatoon wasn't good.
Most people have moved on to the next Splatoon game.
Exactly. So to me, it's like, and again, like with Monster
single player
Hunter, yes,
games,
I will want to go back,
you know,
and I might want to go back and play Monster Hunter. But again, for me personally, unless there's something really compelling me and a really good reason to go back, you say Ocarina of Time, something like that, a good compelling reason to go back, something you really loved and the story was really good and it meant a lot to you, I'm not going back to play it. I'm gonna play what I have now. I just paid for that.
Games. Honestly, I like to buy physically just because I like to sell it back. Like at the end of a generation, I just sell back all my games. I never keep the system. I never keep the games.
Here's an interesting thought. So when you're a kid, you don't get as many games. Most kids don't get as many games as when they're adults, right? That's pretty common, because when you're an adult, you can buy pretty much whatever you want, right? At least with games, because they're not that expensive. But as a kid, they're pretty expensive because your allowance probably doesn't allow you to buy $60 games whenever you want, right? Your parents buy what they think is reasonable, right? For you. Yeah. So you don't get that many games, right? So the games you do have, you tend to play a lot. Not only are you a kid and you're, everything, your memory, you're more easily influenced, things like that, but also, like, you play that one game a lot, you go back to it a lot because you only have so many games, right? But now as adults, we play one game, we move on to the next one, So, as a kid, we have this memory of older games where we kind of just continually went back to and really kind of like, ingratiated ourselves into those worlds. So I feel like oftentimes the nostalgia for older games when you're a kid has an even stronger impact because there was only so many games you actually focused on. So when you think about going back and playing particular games, you have that. Like as a kid, I remember like always looking at my N64 cartridges, like, oh, this is so cool. I would always like stack them up to each other, look at them, see how they all look next to each other, and I would go back to them and play them because I really enjoyed those games. I really got into them, right? But now as an adult, yeah, sometimes I look at my collections like, oh man, that looks awesome, but I don't go back to games the way I used to as a kid because I'm moving on to the next big thing.
Yeah, I honestly don't care about collecting games. I'll sell a game. I don't care. I'll sell all my physical games.
Yeah, but you have no
every
emotions.
Generation. I only care about collecting figurines and posters and things. Like, I've never cared about collecting or just having a shelf with a ton of games. Honestly, I don't even think they look good. I've seen a lot of people with their collection, they just have tons of game cases, and like, it doesn't look impressive to me. I don't care about it. I like the
hypocrite. I see yours behind your shoulder.
I do. Aha. I had to have something there. Well, I was just annoyed because they were piled up randomly over there, and I was like, might as well display them.
Yeah.
My issue with it right now is as I'm getting older and my house is getting messier and my kids are taking over more of the house, one of the things we're really struggling to do is cut down on how much we have and how much we own and getting rid of things we don't need. And that's kind of
I'm about to throw away a whole bunch of stuff when I'm moving out this week. So much stuff that I thought I would keep,
you have to. Gone.
Yeah.
You pretty much have to. And so earlier in the year, my basement, I lost my DS, DSi, Wii, PS2, PS3, Xbox 360, all gone, all fried. A bunch of games gone. All the games that I have now, I'm getting rid of because I don't have a system I can even play them on. They're useless now. And I'm not going to get any real money back for them because they're not rare or anything. And I'm not going to go through the effort of getting a quarter for them. I don't care that much. Hopefully I can find someone to give them to locally. That'd be ideal. But, we lost all this stuff. We lost like thousands of dollars of things. I think it was like close to $4,000 worth of items gone. And when you furniture, consoles, all like it adds up quick. And now like, we just kind of got the basement back usable, and it's empty in a great way. There's a couch down there. We got kids' gymnastics mats and stuff that they could put out, and there's space for them because there's not a bunch of junk everywhere. The shelves are all tidy. Since what we did was we moved a lot of stuff from our living room down, and then used the insurance stuff to replace with. Since it's new, we'll just put it in the living room, move the old stuff to the basement for the kids. All the kids' toys went down after, of course, purging a bunch that we didn't need, and now the room is open and looks clean, and it looks like a real adult's house. Just ignore the stuff behind. We're still working. But like the rest of it, like it's nice to actually, and it when it comes down to it, for me, yes, I do like physical games, but it's a pain in the butt for me to change games. I don't feel like doing it.
Yeah, it's just it's naturally more convenient. We're going to be edging towards that naturally because it's just easier to do.
And I'm trying to get rid of more and more physical things in my house because I don't need them. And now I have 2 Switches, so I'm even more spoiled. Wherein, you know what's faster than switching a physical game? Switching a digital game. Do you know what's faster than switching a digital game? Switching which Switch is in the dock. And just loading up that game. That's much faster. I am incredibly spoiled in that regard. And it's nice. And then also, I now have 2 Splatoon playthroughs going right now because they don't have cloud saves. So I have I basically have one account on each, like the same account on each Switch is 2 different saves, 2 different playthroughs. And so I get to double it up. Pokemon, same thing. I'm going to be able to have my main Pokemon, and then I'm going to have my second playthrough that I'm going to be able to do over and over again and still trade without spending any extra money on, say, a family plan.
Saving. It hasn't been confirmed or denied yet, has it?
I can almost guarantee they're not going to allow
If they didn't do it for Let's Go, I guess for Sword and Shield, they might not either. Yeah, because it's the same reasoning for Splatoon, right? It's a competitive advantage or something they can be taking advantage of.
It's not even that. It's that if you don't have it, you can save scrub. So basically what you can do is, okay, well, I caught this legendary, so I'm going to trade it to you, and then I'm just not going to save afterwards, and problem solved. And that's what they're trying to, like, they're trying to avoid things like that. There clearly has to be ways of getting around it.
I mean, can't you just opt to save what you want on a cloud save, like in the options? Like, okay, like, when you go to save Pokemon Sword and Shield, for example, like, hey, all right, can you go and save this? Like, as the game is right now, can I send this to the cloud, right? Like, something like that. Can't you just do that?
But that's the problem, is that you do that, and then, okay, well, now I'll trade you all of my competitive Pokemon, and then even if it saves locally, I just don't let it save to the cloud, and then I just go, I'll delete that, pull it from the cloud, and then all those Pokemon are back, and now we've just duplicated all of them.
Gotcha.
And that's what they're trying to get around.
Gotcha, I understand now.
Clearly, there's got to be other ways of doing it, because there are other games that have this stuff, and maybe not specifically, but they have ways you can manipulate them, and yet they're not getting manipulated. So I feel like it just, they haven't put the effort in. It might just be that they haven't had cloud saves long enough. So hopefully in the future, but we keep saying that an awful lot.
I think we gotta start wrapping up.
Cloud saves then.
We gotta start wrapping up. Sassy just asked me, you moving out? Yes, I'm moving out at the end of this week. Different location. Hopefully I can make videos better that way. My pets, my brother, my cousin are all staying here. I'm moving somewhere else. I got a different job, different location. I'll be moving with some friends. Maybe I'll do an update video on it. I don't really like doing update videos. I rarely do them. I'm not sure if that's desired. If you guys want an update video, let me know. Maybe I'll do it. Yeah, this is going to be the last time we're doing the podcast here. Next week it'll be somewhere else. Won't change too much. Just the background will be different. But besides that, let's talk about the final topics. We haven't talked about it yet. We've been going on for over 3 hours, and we still haven't gone to the final topic. We only have 3 topics. Yeah, we only have 3 topics. Yeah. Thank you for the good luck, Sabbath. So let's get to it now, because people are going to sleep already, and we haven't gone to the final topic. So No, this topic's not. I don't think it's a big deal because I don't think this is a real leak, right?
I don't think it's real either.
But here it is. So supposedly, you know, you got on your 4chan, right? We got a leak for the Nintendo Direct, right? So I'll just read it off. Nintendo Direct on November 13th will focus primarily on Pokémon Sword and Shield, Animal Crossing New Horizons, and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. I don't see, like, from the bat, I don't think that sounds bad. I think that makes sense. Starts with a beach with a TNT crate, reveals Crash Bandicoot as the final fighter of the Fighters Pass, releasing in December. Terry is showcased for a bit, and he will be released later that day for Smash Bros. Mii costumes. For Smash, Mii costumes are shown: Geese Howard, Fatal Fury, Haomaru, Samurai Showdown, Marco Rossi, Metal Slug, Byleth from Fire Emblem, and Akira Martial Chain. If those are Mii costumes, I actually think that'd be really awesome. I feel like that's a little much. But, you know, who knows. A Minecraft stage is shown with blocks that you can attack, which will break them into smaller items that you can pick up. You can throw these, and the block will place where it lands. A creeper comes in and destroys a large portion of the stage. It's announced that a Minecraft DLC will be released in December for $4.99, which will include the stage, a creeper assist trophy, music, and a Mii costume. I'm okay with that. I don't think Minecraft needs a character, but that sounds cool. Fighters Pass 2 is announced, available to purchase later that day at the same price as the first one. This will be the final set of DLC for Smash Ultimate. Purchasing Fighters Pass 2 gives you a Tetris stage. Alright. Smash section ends with the screen getting slashed and an image of a katana sticking in the ground, hinting at, but not showing or revealing, Ryu Hayabusa. Alright? So a little bit more. That was just Smash. Pokemon section starts by revealing the final evolutions for the starter Pokemon. Scorbunny evolves into a humanoid rabbit with a soccer ball. Sobble evolves into a humanoid chameleon spy. Grookey evolves into a large gorilla with a giant drum. A new Ghost Water, Ghost Ship, and a Firegrass Goat with a pan flute are announced as version-exclusive Pokemon. The Pokemon section ends with a Space Dolphin being revealed as a legendary, although the type is unknown. That would be awesome, a Space Dolphin. Then Animal Crossing. It starts by focusing on all of the villagers, revealing that every villager from Animal Crossing will be in the game. Talks about crafting a multiplayer for a bit, as well as new amiibo cards that allow you to bring that villager to your own town to visit with an exclusive gift, and you can try to convince them to move in. You can expand not only your house, but also your entire town. The final town upgrade allows you to have up to 24 villagers in your city. So, I'm going to take this off the stream because I realize there's some really nasty comments.
Yeah,
the one's right though. When is a Nintendo Direct actually fully leaked more than 12 hours in advance?
Yeah, it is unprecedented.
On top of that,
it's a lot of details when leaks happen. They're never that detailed. Let me rephrase. When leaks happen for a Nintendo Direct, they're never that detailed about multiple games. That's a lot of details, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot.
I don't think I've ever seen a leak, especially an early leak of anything, go into details of like the trailer or the video feed of this is gonna happen, and then it turns into this, and
right,
then
the order of it.
No.
Yeah.
No. On top of that, the Pokemon stuff. No.
This is like a month off. I doubt they even have all this stuff fully planned if there was a Direct planned.
Well, why can't the Pokemon stuff be real?
I feel like that's feeding too much off of the leak we've already had, and what
the one that we know is real. Yeah.
And on top of that, I don't feel like Eternus, so your third legendary to go with the two dogs, is a space dolphin. For starters, a space dolphin would be something they would do in Sun and Moon. It is not a Galar thing. I don't see that as happening.
Well, in defense of Space Dolphin, Sun and Moon's two legendaries were a lion and a bat. Right? Like, those aren't necessarily tropical creatures. Like, I guess you could see bats on an island, but maybe there's some islands somewhere in the world that have lions, but that's not like a normal thing to see in tropical areas. So I don't think the dolphin aspect, but just the fact that it doesn't match up with what we've heard with Eternatus, I kind of agree with. Not to mention, like, I wouldn't expect to see a trailer for Okay, so
And then on top of that,
just let me finish my point real quick. Just the legendary. I can't speak. So the space dolphins, the way it's shown, it's suggesting it's like the third legendary to the other two legendaries, right? For the two dogs, right? We're pretty sure the space chicken, that giant thing on the mountain, Eternatus, is that third legendary, right? A space dolphin, maybe that could be a legendary in Sword and Shield, but I don't think they would reveal it at the Nintendo Direct like that.
No. On top of that, we already have names for the, at least Inteleon. So you're telling me you watch that whole thing, Pokemon, they're dropping huge stuff like that. Big name flashes this big across the screen, and you didn't catch a single name. No name? I don't believe
Interesting. Okay.
Without the name, I don't believe it at all.
That the final Fighters Pass character would come in December, which is almost certainly, I don't think, happening, because the fourth one's not even out yet. So that's not going to come out till it says Crash Bandicoot as the final fighter of the Fighters Pass releasing in December, which makes no sense. Why would it release in December?
That would be
that's way too early.
It's a month after Terry.
Yeah, because Terry's most likely coming out next month.
It's also a lot of Smash information for one. I want to point out that entire first paragraph was more than the Pokemon and Animal Crossing paragraphs combined. Right?
For a game that's already out and they're selling a Fighter's Pass versus the game that comes out in 2 days and the game coming out at the beginning of the next year, that is your next biggest mobile IP, like handheld IP. You're gonna spend most of the focus of the Direct on Smash.
I can see a Direct that has all three in it together, right?
Yeah.
But not in that ratio. Yeah, I agree with you. I think Pokemon and Animal Crossing need way more of a focus, especially Pokemon. Like, if it happens November 13th, I mean, that's 2 days before, actually. That's literally 2 days before the game comes out.
Yeah.
So,
and I don't think they would drop a ton of stuff like that. Like, with how sparse the information has been, I could see a Direct happening on the 13th. I could see in the Direct they give you the final evolutions of the starters. I could see that.
And that's it.
But I don't expect a legendary and 2 more exclusive Pokemon dropped at that point in time. I feel like they've been giving us the bare minimum. Give us the starter evolutions. Everyone would be super pumped. Everyone would be so happy about it. And then when the game comes out and those Pokemon that are allegedly there are in it, everyone would be even more hyped and happy about it. And could you
I need to point
imagine the
out.
buzz?
This website I should not have put on the stream. I should not have put on the stream, dude. I just noticed the top banner is...
Yeah, not great.
I did not notice that till right now. Okay. Oh my god. It's very sexual. That's all I'm gonna say.
I have the page pulled up and mine's, I guess, not the same.
Okay,
it's
not. It's weird. It's like 2 different countries. I'm not gonna talk about it.
No. That's just.
I'd also like to point out that they talk about the Fighters Pass 2, and then talk about them. Not only have they revealed the final Fighters Pass character, not only have they revealed this Minecraft stuff, but they've also revealed that it's a Fighters Pass, and you're getting a Tetris stage, and they tease Ryu Hayabusa for the second. Like, that's just too much. That's way too much. That's not happening.
It's too long on it. Like, this is supposed to be something. These Fighter Passes at this point in time are going to be used as just hype builders. So they're not going to do like a huge, like, 5-minute video on it. It's going to be, here's the next fighter. This is and maybe this is what's coming next. I could see it ending a Direct. I could see it opening a Direct. I could see it be in the middle of the Direct when things, it's like they open the Direct with a bunch of hype, then things kind of slow down and like, oh, Fighters Pass fighter, and then they go on with the hype stuff at the end. I could see that. Like it's they can use this to fix pacing, and they've been so good with that. I doubt they're going to have like this huge long thing in a Direct.
Smash. No, it's just been little bit. It's been like pieces at a time. I mean, I'd say the closest thing to a Smash Direct was the last Direct, actually. That was a lot of Smash information from the previous Direct, because not only did we get we got the Terry reveal, but we also got the confirmation of more DLC characters. But then we got the Banjo presentation and the Geno pack. Not the Geno pack, the Sans Mii costume pack with the. That's a lot for a non-Smash Direct DLC announcement day.
Yeah,
that's
it's not even as close as how much they're saying this though.
Yeah, so I don't really believe that. Not to mention, I feel like Game Awards, like I'm pretty darn confident that the final Fighters Pass character is gonna be revealed at the Game Awards, or something Smash is gonna be revealed at the Game Awards. Why? Because Smash Ultimate's gonna be at the Game Awards. Like that, you can book it. It's gonna be there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're gonna have to reveal something there if they're gonna reveal anything in December or this holiday time, which they will. So it'd be weird to do it in November. I really feel like what's gonna happen, and I know some people want a November Nintendo Direct, and if it happens, by all means, I'm excited for that. It gives me more to talk about, more to see. I'll be happy about it. But I just don't expect one. I'm kind of thinking January or late December, because we don't need it. There's not like a need for it. And with the Game Awards right around the corner, that's kind of like a mini like Nintendo news sort of time right there already in early December.
I feel like we're looking more February, because do you really hold back and then hold something back from a Direct to have it at the Game Awards?
The only reason I think it'll happen before February is just because there's no game for February that I know of. I know there's the Tokyo Mirage Sessions. I think that's coming out in January, right? I just think by that point it would make sense to have updates for games in the early part of the year. Like,
I also think January would make more sense, because I think they'd want to talk about Animal Crossing more, but like 2 months before instead of like the month before, because we have like no information on that game.
Because the update we got was not an update.
I doubt they would wait all the way till February to talk more about it.
They can always drop a trailer, though, is the thing. They can drop a trailer or two. They have so many options. So I don't know. I feel like the Video Game Awards, and then I guess like mid to late January, early February would be my guess for what the next Direct would actually be.
Watch it be in April.
I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised if Animal Crossing got its own Direct, because every single
I think it will. I think absolutely will. Just look what they did with the trailer. They basically did like an Animal Crossing mini Direct at the end of the previous Direct without telling us anything new, because it was just recycled information from E3.
We even got an Animal Crossing Direct when they announced a DLC for Animal Crossing. Yeah. And we got a Direct for the mobile game.
I believe it. Pokemon got 2 Directs.
It's a big IP. Like, that's not a little seller.
No.
You put that on the Switch, so you now have your home console market, your handheld market, and hype of Switch and sales, and the marketing team that has been amazing from Nintendo, and that thing is going to be nuts. Yeah. That's going to sell so much.
Easily over 10 million, though.
Wow.
It'll hit 10 million like really quickly, honestly.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised. Plus, you like with Switch Lite as well. Switch Lite comes out, you get Pokemon in November, and then you're coming into Animal Crossing. That's huge. And now they're separated enough that like there's going to be. I feel like there's a lot of crossover between the two. Your casual Pokemon fans and your Animal Crossing fans. I feel like there's a lot of crossover. And it's spaced out enough that they can afford it. Plus, again, cheaper system. Like,
there's gonna be a new Animal Crossing Lite. You can book it.
I think.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I'll bet money. All my money isn't very much right now. Yeah. I think so. So yeah, I mean, I think we agree this leak is probably fake. Never has this much information been come out about a Nintendo Direct this early on. It's very detailed.
This was 8 days ago. This wasn't even
earlier. Yeah,
like a week ago.
I mean, hey, if it turns out this is even half true, I'm sure people will talk about it. The Animal Crossing stuff doesn't seem too crazy of a prediction.
No.
The Pokemon stuff just seems to be piggybacking off of a leak that already happened and then adding some cool Pokemon. Like, I wouldn't mind a Firegrass Goat or a Ghostwater Ghost Ship or a Space Dolphin. That all sounds awesome.
Yeah. And
But-
the Animal Crossing stuff, most of it isn't even new stuff. Most of it just describes things that are available in the DLC for New Leaf.
Yeah.
And like
It's
again, these might be legitimate Pokemon that maybe it's someone from like just hinting at something from like that did one of those 1.5 hour plays. It's stuff they're not allowed to talk about. So
Interesting
you can't
point.
really put a name. You know, this is
Oh.
all possible. I just
Yeah.
don't really
That's the
believe
interesting
it.
thing, right? People, we know that a lot of video game journalists have played Pokemon Sword and Shield and have seen Pokemon we haven't seen before. We know, and I haven't seen anything come up about it. Just
Yeah.
interesting how well that embargo's going.
Again, that's an NDA that I wouldn't want to break because that messes up your livelihood on that point in time. But if they said something to someone and they're like, you know, a close friend or a family member or something, they just kind of mentioned something because they're really excited, and then they went, to Reddit I go. That would also explain why they don't have names.
Yeah.
Because maybe it's secondhand information. But again, I don't believe it. But I do believe that, you know, there is the possibility. I don't believe
I
it.
want a space dolphin.
I am 99% sure that this is fake.
I think the Smash stuff is for sure fake. For sure. Even though, like, Crash and Ryu are just the two rumored characters right now that are in discussion, right? Like, that's it. That's it, really.
So, it also seems to be really popular right now to be like, to put write out your wish list as of what you want, and then at the top, go back to the top and write Nintendo leak.
Yeah.
There you go.
Essentially.
As a kid, I would do that. I just wouldn't call them leaks. I would just say, "Hey, I'm gonna write this down. That's what I want." I would write it on paper. I wouldn't share it with anyone. Yeah. I really did do that. Like, I would get a notebook and like, "Oh, these are gonna be the specs of the next Nintendo system. This is gonna have like a 1 terabyte hard drive and 7 wireless Bluetooth controllers." I was like 15 years old, so you know, it was fun.
Still wait.
Still waiting on some of those features.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, I think we've pretty much reached the natural conclusion for the podcast, guys.
Yep.
Any final thoughts?
After 3.5 hours, I think we've covered everything.
I haven't eaten today. I'm just gonna eat.
Probably should do that.
Might want
Yeah,
to do that. Seems pretty important.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm just excited for what's coming.
Oh man, that's one of the reasons why I don't feel like we need a Nintendo Direct. Like, one, I want to get Ring Fit Adventure. That's gonna be fun, right? Luigi's Mansion comes out in a couple weeks. That's gonna be amazing, right? And then Pokemon Sword and Shield is also gonna be amazing. Oh, it feels good to say that. It's gonna be amazing. Pokemon Sword and Shield is gonna be good. Can't wait. I'm excited. I can't wait. Yeah. Anyways, guys. See, I gotta eat food. I need to eat. Maybe some late night Taco Bell. That would be maybe a decent idea, Sabbath. But I have some food waiting for me. I just gotta eat it. So, not Taco Bell. Not this time. Yeah. And I also, Shadow of Nexus, I agree with you. The Ryu thing does seem off. Like, just slashing through. That's just,
Yeah.
I don't know. Not feeling that. But alright. Let's call it a night. I'm doing this because I'm thinking about eating. I'm like, alright, time to go eat. But, good night, guys. Make sure to check out both What About Nintendo and Dumo. Their channels are linked in the description below. Leave a like if I can eat. That doesn't help me, but do it anyway. Alright, take care, guys. Bye.
Bye.
I guess.